What's up, watchers? This is Matt from License to Watch. I just wanted to be real with you all for 1 second and tell you about our new and ever-evolving Patreon show. If you head on over to www.patreon.com/L2W, you can sign up to be a patron of our show for the low price of just $1 a month. If you become a patron, then you automatically get to listen to all of our bonus content shows. That's right, we do full-on shows about other movies that aren't part of a franchise. If you love the show and can somehow tolerate our witty banter, you should really check it out. So far, we've covered Twister, Hard Boiled, Cliffhanger, Star Trek Generations, First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis, plus Rudy. And coming up next, Dune, the David Lynch classic 80s film. Your dollar goes towards helping us fund the show so that we can keep putting out classic content for you guys. So please head on over to www.patreon.com/L2W right now and check it out, please. Bonus, if you subscribe before October 15th, then you can make a movie suggestion of your choosing for us to cover on the show. We'll pick one at random from all the suggestions. But hey, it could be yours. We could be talking about your favorite movie. So join now. And now, here's the regular show. Welcome to a very spooky edition of License to Watch. For the next 5 episodes, we're going to be taking a second look at one of the most interesting and eclectic horror franchises of all time. We're talking, of course, about The Exorcist. Beginning in 1973 and going all the way to 2005, the Exorcist franchise consists of 5 films, all of which directed by notable auteur directors. None of the films, however, are as well known or as successful as the original that started it all, and the subject of the episode you're listening to now, 1973's The Exorcist. Directed by William Friedkin, screenplay by William Peter Blatty, and starring Ellen Burstyn, Max von Sydow, Jason Miller, and Linda Blair as Reagan, the innocent young girl whose life is threatened by the devil himself. Blatty, adapting the film off of his own 1971 novel, was inspired by a real exorcism that took place in 1949. He changed some minor details like switching the gender of the possessed from a boy to a girl, but tried to stay as true to the real story as he possibly could for the adaptation. Over time, the film has made many best-of lists and is considered a classic, not only in the horror genre, but as a piece of filmmaking as a whole. The sound, music, and special effects were praised, as well as the film's use of subliminal imagery. Its popularity was unexpected, and Warner Brothers Studios was unprepared for the fan reaction of the film. Initially, it was only released into a few theaters in major cities, but had to quickly garner a wide release after selling out multiple shows. After several reissues over the years, The Exorcist has grossed $232.6 million, which when adjusted for inflation, makes it the 9th highest grossing film of all time in the United States and Canada, and the top grossing R-rated film of all time. The Exorcist was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, and it won 2, one for sound mixing and the other for Blatty's adapted screenplay. The film's popularity pushed filmmakers for years to try to recreate the magic that made The Exorcist what it is. 4 sequels were produced, and we're gonna watch them all. And we hope you will watch along with us. So spin your heads completely around, break out your crucifixes, finish up that bowl of regurgitated pea soup, and prepare to shout out profanity-laden threats along with Colin Shaw, Harris McCabe, and me, Matt McGregor, as we discuss the first film in the classic horror film franchise of Exorcist films, 1973's The Exorcist. This is a show about franchises, spooky film franchises. You're listening to License to Watch.
Why in the world was this movie made? Oh, Jesus Christ! It is he who commands you! The power of Christ compels you!
Harris, welcome back. How was your trip this weekend?
My trip was interesting. I took my girlfriend, who is not imaginary, to Big Bear because it was her birthday last week, and she left town from New York this week, so you guys will never be able to meet her, which doesn't make
I met her once.
It doesn't make her any less imaginary.
I mean, I met the figment that is her once.
Yeah. So we went to Big Bear, and that was good. That was a lot of fun. And we went like kayaking and hiked up the mountain and whatever. And then the second day we didn't really have anything planned. So we were like debating maybe we should go mountain biking or whatever. And then a friend of hers had posted a few weeks ago on Instagram about this hot springs by Arrow Lake. And so we did a brief amount of research, totally unprepared. And we drove like an hour and 20 minutes to this random hot springs. And the only thing we heard about it in advance is that like leading up to the hot springs, you got to go to this ranch. And you kind of have to, like, it's like a dirt road. It's like not civilized. It hasn't been paved. So you're driving on a dirt road, and I heard it can be a little rough in the car. So we're like, okay, we're taking my Honda Accord, and we're like, all right, well, we'll see how bad it is. And if it's too bad, maybe we won't be able to do it. But so we start driving up there, and the road's pretty bumpy and pretty hilly and just not great. But it's okay. We're going slow, and it's fine and whatever. So we take a couple wrong turns. It's very hard to find. There's no instructions anywhere. And eventually, after some close calls but no real problems, we find this ranch, and we go on this hike to this hot springs. And it was actually really cool, but the hike back was entirely uphill, and we didn't have enough water. And it was like basically like 2 miles entirely uphill. We felt like we were going to die. We were not in good enough shape. We get back into my car, and I put into Waze, because I am an idiot, and I'm going to admit this up front. I'm an idiot that as we're leaving the ranch, I put into Waze just, how to get back to LA. And, I'm from LA, and you guys probably know, I use GPS for everything here just for traffic's sake. So, like, I'm just used to using my GPS for everything. So I put home into my GPS.
Did Waze tell you to, like, go off-road?
Instead of telling me to go back the way we came on the dirt roads we came in on, it tells me to take a left and go in the opposite direction down a different dirt road that actually looks pretty smooth and looks pretty, okay. So I'm like, oh, maybe because we came in and we kind of got lost on our way in. So I was like, oh, maybe this is the way we were supposed to come in, and it's actually much easier and not so dangerous. No, that is not the case. Waze sent me over a mountain range on unpaved roads that I think are only supposed to be traversed by like ATVs and four-wheelers and dirt bikes. And it is literally, the entire length of it was 1 car width wide. It's literally climbing up like 45-degree angles plus, where like my car started like sliding backwards down the hill. And it's strewn with boulders. I bottomed out like 5 times. I'm like basically bouldering in a fucking Honda Accord. And white knuckling the entire way. Like I am like, it took me about an hour and 15 minutes to drive the 6 miles through the mountains, and we have to climb up a mountain and then down the other side of a mountain. And the only people we see are a bunch of guys in 4-wheelers with like roll cages and helmets on that came by and like were sort of laughing at us. And I was like, are we almost at the end? And he's like, you got a ways to go. But there was no way for me to turn around. So even though I was like,
the end of your life?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And at one point we're literally driving along, like it's like switchbacks, like if you drive in the Hollywood Hills, like those kind of switchbacks, except only a car width wide on dirt roads that are like, I don't even know if they're made to handle the weight of a Honda. And when you look over the side, it's like a 500-foot drop into nothing. And needless to say, my girlfriend spent the entire hour hyperventilating. And I spent the entire time.
But was there any traffic?
There was no. I think we beat the traffic. I spent the entire time
closer to LA. Of course, there was.
Yeah, I spent the entire time saying like, no, this is fine. I think it's gonna get really better just up ahead, around the corner, just to try to make her feel better. But the entire time I'm like, oh my God, this is totally how people die. Like I think she was worried that we were gonna fall off the mountain, which I don't think was a totally unrealistic concern, but that wasn't my concern. I was worried that the car was going to break down or get stuck, because we did get stuck in a couple of uphills that I had to try a couple times. I drove the entire thing in low gear. And
were you low on gas too?
No, we had plenty of gas. But it was definitely one of those things that I was more afraid of being stranded out in the middle of a mountain range in a broken down Honda Accord with nobody anywhere near us. And I also couldn't figure out if my car did break down, I think that would just be the end of the car. Like AAA is not going to come and get that. I just don't. I think that car is doomed.
Sir, there's an extra charge for that.
Yeah, it was. So in short, Waze sucks, and that was not anything approaching a road. They should have at least warned me that was not a road intended for cars and was probably super dangerous. On the other hand, my car is running fine and it drove back to LA just fine. So Hondas are kind of badass. I mean, I would have loved for something with like a bigger tire and a little more clearance, but like the fact that it actually survived it is kind of amazing.
I somehow knew this was going to turn into a Honda commercial. I'm just imagining all the Harris-ites like trading in whatever they drive for a Honda Accord.
I feel like I should write Honda and just thank them for my survival. Jenna, this is Mama Jenna.
Oh,
She loves being on camera.
and what a sweetheart.
Yeah, so I was hoping you would have some clever segue into The Exorcist, but
Yeah, no, we
not.
survived. So
yeah.
Actually, question, is your girlfriend dead?
no, she made it.
Did she break up with you?
Yes.
There's just a lot of things about mountains and like hidden wood things. I needed to ask, needed to confirm.
No, she is. I mean, I can't prove that since she's moved to New York for several months. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. No, she survived the mountain and did not break up with me. She said she texted me after I dropped her off at her apartment and just said, "Thanks for not getting us both killed." So I've set the bar
that's
very
nice.
low, and yeah, she meant it. She wasn't being sarcastic. I've set the bar very low, and that is the weekend getaway. Minimum is don't get us both killed.
I don't think I've ever gotten credit for that with any girlfriend, so that's a big
I know. Yeah, it's kind of huge for me.
In some weird like workaround way, you saved her life, Harris.
Right. I put her life at great risk and then managed to save it.
If things work out, you can always bring that up during fights. Do you remember that one time I saved your life?
You remember that one time
saved your
almost
life,
killed you
damn
and
it.
saved your life? Yeah, that'll be part of my my wedding speech. My vows.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, that female voice that you hear is Colin, but that other female voice that you hear is our special guest, Jenna Quigley. I had a whole clever thing written here to introduce you, but you already started talking, so I'll let you introduce yourself and just, kind of tell us what you're up to and what you do and what makes you happy.
I would rather hear the clever thing you wrote.
It doesn't.
To be completely
Called his
honest,
bluff.
you didn't write it, did you?
No, of course not.
I don't know what to say about me. I'm a former entertainment reporter, writer. I'm on Twitter constantly, and I'm one of those blue checkmark liberal snowflakes you always hear about.
Well, it's nice to have a snowflake on the show, other than Colin.
A female
Yeah,
snowflake.
Don't try not to melt in this heat.
Yeah, I turned the air off for this, so
I know.
if I get sweaty, guys, don't let it get sweaty.
It's the worst part of podcasting.
Guys, I learned the trick with that. You got to record from the East Coast where you don't need air conditioners. It's already frigid over here. It's like full on fall.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it was great up in the mountains. It was very cool at night.
Watching this movie made me get a little hankering for some fall weather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely has some fall weather going on.
Well, this episode is airing in October, so for all intents and purposes, it is October.
And October in LA is like low 90s, so the weather is brisk.
I was going to say, that's not going to make a huge difference if you're in LA, but
So we're talking about The Exorcist. This is the first of a 5-movie, believe it or not, series. This movie is considered a classic in a lot of circles. It's from 1973. William Friedkin, director, based on the book by William Peter Blatty, who also wrote the script for this movie, and I believe he won the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay as well.
the first horror movie to be nominated for several Academy Awards and sort of broke down a barrier there where it made it a little more acceptable.
I was
Harris-
thinking when I was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Correct, Harris.
No, I just want to ask him when the screenwriter is adapting your Honda Mountain story. When is that coming?
I'm going to do it William Blatty style and write the novelization and then adapt it myself.
Great.
And then insist on directing it and then be replaced by William Friedkin if he's still alive. So I'm following the blueprint exactly.
I'll be playing both the part of Harris and Harris's girlfriend. No, but The Exorcist, when I was watching it, I was thinking this movie, it had to come from the 70s because if it was made today, they wouldn't have adapted the screenplay so well. They would have cut a bunch of stuff out and made the characters more archetypal or tropish, I think.
Yeah, I think I was, doing some research for this, and a lot of the cast, the main cast members, like had never been in movies before, or like the casting is really novel here because they wanted bigger names in the key roles, and Friedkin fought pretty hard to get like no name people.
Well, also they wanted some people that turned them down too, so it was kind of like the bigger names that Friedkin wanted didn't want to do it, and the bigger names that the studio wanted, Friedkin objected to.
Yeah, the studio wanted Marlon Brando to play the Exorcist, and he's like, no.
No thanks.
You
Nope.
got to make that demon an offer it can't refuse.
Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about some of, since you're mentioning some of the first time people. We have some people that are a little bit experienced. Ellen Burstyn was a professional actress. She definitely wasn't very well known at that time, and this was sort of her breakout. Jason Miller, who plays Father Damien Karras, was a playwright. Yeah, the hot father. Yeah, the hot
Sorry,
priest.
that's what I've had to come to terms with the fact that I'm very attractive to that priest.
Isn't he also Jason Patrick's dad?
He is Jason Patrick's dad, which is totally weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of attractive.
Do you feel like it makes him more attractive that he looks like really just beat down by life for the entire movie?
Yeah, it really does do it for me, if I'm being completely honest. I think it's the whole, I mean, he's a boxer too, and he's like athletic. We don't have to go into it now, but if I don't remember the character name, I'm going to say the hot priest.
Yeah. I really wanted to make a comment about how he's clearly athletic, but also maybe chain smokes and drinks every day.
The 70s.
That's the 70s for you.
Exactly.
The 70s, baby.
Well, so the deal was that they actually, I think it was Friedkin that approached him because he'd written this, he'd written a play called The Championship Season about a bunch of former Catholic school basketball players reuniting as adults with their old basketball coach, and the trauma involved in that. And he wanted to talk to him about like being a lapsed Catholic and losing your faith and blah 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 blah, because that's what the play was all about. And then when Miller read the script for the Exorcist, or read the novel of The Exorcist, he was like, "Oh my God, this character's me. I went to the seminary. I was going to be a priest. I grew up in like this kind of neighborhood. I know this guy." And asked if he could play it, but he didn't. Like, he had done nothing but like local theater. So they actually screen tested him and were like, "Holy shit, this guy's actually pretty good." But at that time, Stacy Keach was actually signed to be that priest, and they actually the studio had to buy out Stacy Keach's contract to get Jason Miller to be able to take the role.
Do you think that happens often still, where like they cast someone, they sign a contract, and then they find someone else who they think is so much better that they buy out the contract of the person who they already signed? I feel like directors or studios like don't even care that much anymore. It's just about like branding, like, oh, he's a big name. Yeah, this other person's a better actor, sure, but The Rock will bring in.
How many people do they have on social media?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, don't forget that this actually, almost every casting choice in this movie, except for, as far as I know, Max von Sydow, after Marlon Brando passed, was like fought over by the studio and the filmmakers. So it was happening even then, where they obviously would have liked bigger people. But the same thing happened with casting Linda Blair, because they were trying to cast a better known young actress, and she ended up being like one of their last auditions after they'd realized that none of the other actresses were going to cut it. So
I read that Violet Beauregard from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was almost going to be Reagan.
That would have been a childhood crossover I was not prepared for. I will never.
But she couldn't lose the blueberry weight in time to shoot. So
they were like, blueberry, that's fine, but stabbing yourself in the vagina, it's not going to fly.
Yeah. Very graphic stuff. But anyways, the casting decisions that they did make turned out pretty great, I think. And part of that is, I think, helped by the, relative unknown status of these people. Even today, like, it's not like any of these people became huge stars except for Max von Sydow, who was already well known. This wasn't
the butler
like
guy was really good in his part. It wasn't a good part, but he was good.
That damn Nazi.
Rudolph.
He was the same guy? Oh my God. I didn't realize that at first.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And what? So was he a Nazi, or was that guy just like, was the film director just really drunk?
No, the film director was really drunk. That's one of the interesting things. So I did a lot of extra work on this one. I read the novel actually because I found it on my bookshelf.
You finished it. I was going to ask you.
I did. And I also watched the director's cut version in addition to the regular
The better
version.
one.
I watched that. I didn't know the difference though.
I watched it and I didn't think there was one part I liked better, and the rest of it I didn't. The rest
Was
of it,
it the crab walk scene down the stairs? Was that the scene?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that. I felt like that was like weirdly, that was like weirdly too early for that, and also took her out of the room. In a weird
What?
time.
It's in both movies. I don't
Is it?
understand.
I thought it was only in the director's cut.
No, it's only in the director's cut one.
The walking on the stairs?
The walking back.
Yeah, that wasn't in the
upside down.
version that I watched.
Yeah.
What?
That's only in the director's cut.
That's more horrifying to me than the head turning. Is that crab walk? That thing is burned into my brain forever.
It was definitely.
There's actually two versions of it, right? There's the one that they originally shot, which is like really lame looking, and you can tell that she's like hanging on strings, and then she just kind of does this with her tongue. She's like,
Yeah, that's
she,
what
like,
happens
sticks
in
it
the
out.
book, because she's like walking around upside down and like in the book they describe it like she's actually writhing and scurrying around the floor like a snake or an animal, and like nipping at people's heels, and everyone's running away from her.
It's the term
And it's-
scurrying that bothers me.
Right, exactly.
The creepiest
And
way.
The way they have it in the director's cut is she walks down the stairs and then vomits a bunch of blood at the camera.
right. And that was reshot for the 2000. They did a re-release of this in 2000, and that scene was reshot with a different actress because Friedkin thought that the original one with Linda Blair like just wasn't scary and it looked too cheesy, so he brought in someone else to
I
do
think
it,
that's
and
the
they
one that I
added
know then. The 2000 version. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if it was reshot in 2000. I think because they were using a stunt double in all of them for the stairwalking stuff. They had to use a contortionist. But I know they did a lot of like post-production erasing of the wires and added a lot of little things for that scene in particular and for the director's cut in general. What also is interesting is on the director's cut, there's like a little interview with Friedkin, and basically the director's cut version isn't really the director's cut. He thought the film that went out into theaters was great and wanted to keep it like that. But it was William Peter Blatty that always hated that version and begged him in 2000 to recut it with all the scenes that he cut out that William Peter Blatty thought were really important. So it's basically the writer's cut, which is super weird because that never happens.
Yeah.
A director's cut that
That's,
actually wasn't the director's cut.
Right.
Okay.
I would dream of being a director who gets to make their cut and then say they want to make a director's cut, though. That sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
I got everything I wanted, but we're making a director's cut.
We're doing it again. Yeah, so really what they added was like a lot of background that really I didn't think was... They added that crab walk scene, which my only complaint... It is pretty cool, but my only complaint with it is that it seems like it's too much of an escalation for that point in the movie, where I think it sort of works better when she's just been doing kind of weird stuff up until that point, and then when they get up into the... Because then is when the doctors come into the room and we have that whole weird thing where she's actually like doing supernatural shit and fucking people up.
I mean, I probably
Yeah,
found
still
it...
pacing-
Physically possible. Oh, I'm sorry.
I probably
It's
found
still
it scary.
physically possible.
Yeah. I probably found it scary because I was 16 at the time, probably. And I wasn't thinking like that really took her out of the room, and it's just not
Right.
needed. I was probably just like, fuck that. And then forever, that's like the scariest part of this movie to me, is that fucking crab walk.
Yeah, so Jenna, this is actually a good point to ask you. Like, what is your like personal connection with this movie? Maybe like what is like the first time that you saw this movie, and like what sort of an impact, what sort of things like stick with you? Obviously, there's a lot of sticking power here.
Yeah.
But yeah, just give us a little background.
My sister and her friends rented it for a sleepover. My older sister, I think I was maybe 10 or 11 at the time, and I just remember hearing about this movie. It's the scariest movie of all time. It's this scariest thing, and people like lost their mind in the theaters, and there were people like throwing up and running away, and there was rumored to be like evil in the actual celluloid. So my mom told me not to watch it, but I went downstairs and snuck down there. My sister, being such a kind older sister, was like, yeah, sure, watch this horrifying movie when you're 10 years old. So that's when I saw it. I didn't understand it, but it was horrifying. I remember being very scared. And it wasn't until way later when I watched it, probably as like a teenager, when I like finally understood the whole story and I could recognize all the amazing choices and the incredible sound design. And then I think I just watch it like once a year around Halloween. Me and my friend did a thing called Fright Fest where did you guys ever watch Bravo's 101 Scariest Movie Moments? It used to be this big countdown show every year.
I have watched that. I used to watch a little bit more Bravo than I usually admit. But yeah.
Oh, Colin, we should talk later then. We can talk about Bravo. So my friend and I watched, it's like 3 on the list, and my friend and I watched all those movies one year, and Exorcist is just, I don't know, what do you say about it? Besides just that it's horrifying and these images are burned into your brain forever. The crab walk, the head turn, your mother
really
sucks cock in hell. And also compelling. Yeah. I mean,
it's almost like a power is compelling you.
Sort of. Yeah, I mean, obviously one of my all-time favorite horror movies.
I mean, I think one thing we like to do on this show is, obviously we're looking at this from the viewpoint of like it built a franchise, and while some of the sequels maybe like didn't really stand the test of time, I mean, maybe they did. I don't know. We haven't really gone into those sequels yet, but the legacy I think that this movie created is like it sort of built the subgenre of like possession films, and especially in the last 10-15 years there's been the exorcism of Emily Rose, and the last exorcism, there was like a few of those I think, and there's like a whole bunch more, and now I feel like if they were to remake this movie, which it was rumored that they were going to next year or the year after or something, I don't think it would work, because it's now been watered down so much, and like you can only do really so much with a possession film, like I feel like they just knocked it out of the park with this one and created a whole thing, and
well,
that's
I think that's a good point. I want to talk a little bit more about that, but also I'm just curious, did you guys both see this movie, Matt and Colin, when you were fairly young, or like when was the first time you saw the movie?
I don't actually remember. I know I saw it when I was pretty young, but I have no specific memory of the first time I saw it. I can tell you one thing. The scariest, most disturbing part of it to me is not the possession, but the
doctor.
The angiogram?
Yes. Yeah, the
Yes.
carotid
angiography.
Yeah, carotid angiography, when they show them putting a wire in through her neck into her brain blood vessels.
The people at home can't see me nodding in emphatic agreement with everything Colin's saying right
That's
now.
just
I like
science,
worst part
you
of this
guys.
entire
Science
fucking
isn't
movie.
scary.
I can't watch it. My whole body like locks up, and
Yes.
I can't watch it.
The worst
It's
part.
way
of this
more
movie.
scary than even her stabbing herself in the vagina with the
Which is the
crucifix.
second
It's
worst
like-
part. Yeah.
Yeah, like that to me, the crucifix vagina stabbing, it looks like so fake because that other part is something that like could really happen to you, and it's just like it disturbs me to a great deal.
Yeah.
I had a funny thing to say too, and I totally forgot about it.
Well, that's okay. You, said
you know what the hard
horrific
part?
Thing, so.
You know what the hard part about remaking The Exorcist is? You got to acquire the rights, and you know what's hard about acquiring the rights? Possession is 9/10 of the law.
Oh my god.
I just remembered I had to do something tonight. I am so sorry to
Stop
do this to
scaring
you
the
guys.
guests away with your bad forced puns.
Jesus.
She's just pretending not to like it to impress you guys.
It's working. I think we're going to replace you with her.
I got puns too, guys.
When I was a little kid, I loved horror movies. I loved all things scary, and my parents were divorced, so I lived with my mom, and she's a big horror fan, and so she would allow me to watch some certain movies. Like I saw Poltergeist, I think when I was like 8. I definitely saw like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween, all those Halloween movies, Freddy Krueger, all that stuff. But the one movie that I knew to steer clear of was The Exorcist. It was just ingrained in me from very young that this is the scariest movie and it will fuck me up if I watch it. So finally I was like, I think 13 years old, and a friend of mine who was older was having, he was like 15 or whatever, and he was having his friends over to watch it, and they were going to watch it in broad daylight on a Saturday, and we were going to order pizza, and it was going to be like, a safe space that a bunch of dudes could all watch it, and like we won't be afraid.
Nice.
And I just remember like being like, yeah, this movie's not so bad. And we're all like eating pizza. And then, then the gnarly stuff starts happening. And I just remember like looking at the pizza differently after after seeing that stuff. And like, I started to get grossed out. And I mean, same as what Jenna said, like, there are things that I probably didn't understand at the time or like didn't really fully get what was happening or why or whatever. But, you miss kind of the nuances as a kid. But, it definitely was scary. And I think I had nightmares even like despite watching it in the daytime with a bunch of bros.
I didn't have nightmares from that one, but what movie gave me nightmares when I was a kid? The Blob. Which is
the one from 1988.
Yeah. I don't like.
Dennis
I just
Quaid? Is it a Dennis Quaid one?
I think so. It's so weird. The Exorcist didn't give me nightmares, but for some reason that pink thing scared the shit out of me when I was little. So
it's fucking scary. That movie's scary.
Okay,
it's like sick. It's cruel. It's
okay,
like
I feel good about that.
Yeah,
I always thought it was stupid.
Yep.
You know what's scary is the idea that Teddy Ruxpin could wake up in the night while you're like, just sleeping without the cassette tape in his chest, and he could do anything to you.
Where does
I had an off. Yeah, where does this come from?
Where did that come from? What are you talking about?
Teddy Ruxpin's
was right
scary.
there. Teddy Ruxpin.
I think it's the '80s talk that I think that the '80s talk.
Yeah,
to
we're
bring this
talking
all
about
out.
like 80s like child scary stuff. It's not totally non sequitur.
Colin, I have no idea. I have no idea where you're coming from there.
This has been a psychiatric evaluation of Colin Shaw. Thank you.
You know
I need
what's
an
weird
old
is
priest and a young priest.
yeah, definitely.
Goddamn puns.
You know what's funny is Matt, the pizza thing you were talking about. Like I've seen the movie before, but I knew I needed a snack today, so I was like, I gotta eat it at the very beginning of the movie, and I'm just watching the clock the whole time. Like I gotta finish this in the first hour, or I'm not gonna be able to eat it. It's not gonna taste the same.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was like, I have to eat lunch now because I watched it today in broad daylight, and I have to eat lunch before it gets to. Actually, it's like the puking is when it starts to make me nauseous. Like I'm fine with blood and swearing and yelling at priests.
It's the blood thing.
Oh, really? It's the vomit.
Yeah,
I can't take that stuff.
So bad. Well, so I am the only person here, I guess, who did not watch this as a young person. This was like one of those movies that just, because I don't like horror movies, or I didn't when I was younger, because the scary parts didn't really scare me that much, but the gory parts always made me really feel sick. So I avoided a lot of horror movies. I saw a lot of them, but I avoided a lot of them. And this is one that I avoided until like I was at USC. I think it was probably like within the last 6 years that I saw this movie for the first time.
Wow.
And I remember not being that impressed by it. I'd probably watch it in the middle of the day and was like,
You snob.
But I actually thought, well, I've seen it since then and been like a little more impressed by it. But what I think is funny, because you were mentioning the legacy of like exorcism movies, and I think especially reading the contemporary reviews of this from like Roger Ebert and Vincent Canby and all these other people, it was like a gross out like torture porn type of, like you would think that this was like some kind of thing where they were just putting the nastiest stuff on screen just to fuck people up and make people upset, and I can see that there's definitely like the angiography or whatever it's called is a little bit like unnecessary to show it in that much detail, but it's all little things that contribute to the overall unease and disgust with the thing, and the pea soup and everything else. It's all like sort of, you just see gross stuff throughout this. And it kind of just beats you down. And I think Roger Ebert said something in his review about like, it was like a 4-star review, but he said, nobody would watch this movie for pleasure. I'm not sure why anybody would watch this movie, but it's definitely not an enjoyable experience. And that got me to thinking a lot of like, it reminds me a lot of a lot of more modern horror movies, like Hereditary, which are very well made, but very disturbing and very like almost unpleasant to sit through, even though they're, very good at what they do. Or like, I don't know, I don't think it's come out yet. Or maybe did we talk about The Lake House at all? Because that's another one that's like just
Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock.
I was just gonna say that, Colin.
Oh no, you're right. That is something else.
Horrifying.
I think it's called The Night House, but it's a house on a lake. It's a haunted house on a lake. It's with
the
Rebecca.
idea that I could be living in the same house as a woman from the past and be in love with her terrifies me. I can't handle it.
Harris, are you thinking of The Lodge?
No, it's The Night House with Rebecca Green. But it's another movie that one doesn't do the gross out stuff as much, but it's like abrasively loud and jarring. You know, like a movie that like sort of you're not supposed to enjoy watching it in a conventional sense. You know.
Yeah, you're talking about movies that when you watch it, you literally feel your blood pressure rising because they're like meant to put you like at
unease.
Yeah, exactly. But
actually, Uncut Gems is sort of similar, although not a horror movie. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
But that's a great movie, and like I would watch Uncut Gems again, and I would watch The Exorcist again, or Hereditary.
I've seen Hereditary several times since it came out, and I don't, like I said, I'm not a big horror movie fan, but that is so well crafted, and it's.
But there's something to be said about that. What brings us back to these movies? You know, they are unsettling, and you know, The Exorcist, a movie from 1973. You would think at this point would be sort of like milquetoast, you know, watered down at this point, but it still stands as, you know, there's some pretty sick stuff. I mean, like there's one or two little nitpicky parts that I could think of.
The head spinning around hasn't aged well, but I think the rest of it has. I was amazed at how well the makeup and effects.
You mean she can't do that in real life?
You know, it's funny you say that, Harris. Like in watching this, I said to myself, like the only thing I would cut out of this movie now in today's world is the head spinning part, and only because it's the only one that, like, especially in the movie, because they say that you know, the guy who fell down the stairs, his head was spun around, and they think that killed him and not the fall and stuff. The point is that if her head spun around like that, I don't care if she's possessed or not, she would die.
Right.
You know, guess you could.
There's a lot of stuff that, I mean, like, how do her eyes change color? Like, the iris
or the letters on the skin.
She also heals up pretty well at the end of it too.
Yeah.
You know, like you'd think she'd have a lot of major scarring, but you know.
I don't know. So for me, this movie, I think it does a couple of things really well that sort of go hand in hand with what we're talking about. The first hour or whatever is a story about people that just draws you into their lives, and you get sucked in by it, and you're like, okay, I gotta find out more about these people, like what the fuck is going on with them. And the other thing it does is the unease is there, but the terror is all suggested. It's just the suggestion that this is out in the world.
Yes.
Think about that. Brings you that terror, you know?
Yeah, you literally don't see her as the, like, monster version of herself until like an hour and a half into the movie.
Oh yeah,
when she has like the full makeup on and eyes and stuff. Everything else is implied.
2 of the deaths are off screen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think
remaking this movie that they could recreate just the dread that builds throughout the film? And I know a lot of it had to do with the film marketing. Like, people knew going in that this film was supposed to be horrifying, so that first hour you're just waiting for something, and I don't know if a remake or reboot or reimagination could replicate that.
You know, we're getting a lot of visuals of stairs, a lot of staircases, a lot of slow tracking shots that show you stairs, and I think there's something about that. I think maybe their suggestion is that the demon and stairs are maybe linked in some way.
The demon has bad knees.
Or maybe the demon is bad knees.
I got dumb jokes too, guys. Remember, you wanted this. Just remember, you invited me.
Perhaps it's saying that you could walk up the stairs to heaven or down the stairs to hell.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, they should have got the rights to Stairway to Heaven.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think. Well, what I thought was interesting, and because I do think that the right filmmaker could probably do it, but what they'd have to understand is all the subtle ways this suggests unease and something ominous and foreboding without actually, like, it opens in Iraq with Max von Sydow's character, Father Marion, at some construction site, and he's digging up relics, and he keeps on coming across these similar relics of a demon's face. And then at the very end, when he's going to leave the excavation site to go home to America, he finds himself confronted by the same demon statue with a giant erection. And meanwhile, like, the sun's beating down and some weird dude is looking at him and the statue's there and there's like dogs, like wild dogs eating each other. And it's like such a, so in the book, that is all spelled out a lot more. You hear about like his buddy that he says goodbye to, who gives him the hug, and how close they were. And, you know, you learn more about their relationship. You learn more about like, it talks about like how, you know, like it literally ends that it's a prologue, just like in the movie. It's like a little chapter at the beginning of the book. And it literally ends with the narrator, or the, you know, imaginary omnipotent narrator saying that Father Merrin felt like he would be meeting an old friend, an old evil friend again, and have another confrontation soon, you know? And they, you know, and the way they evoke that in the film without ever having to literally say it is incredible, you know? Like, it's really well done in a very smart way.
In the film, it feels more like the demon is like harassing him already.
Agreed.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
exactly.
I was like, is this
Yeah.
the same dude? Is this the same demon dude that has been bugging
Right.
you? Is he trolling you? Like you said, I assume in the beginning of the movie that the older priest just like knows this confrontation's coming. Is that what we're being led to believe?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of what
Yeah.
they set up. He even says, like, I have to go. There's something I have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
the clock stops behind him, stops ticking. Yeah, they really.
Which at that point,
I mean, but
I would just be like, no, never mind.
yeah. I'll
So
stay,
like
I'll
props
stay.
to Blatty for adapting, you know, what was in the book is good, but it you know, it has the advantage of being a book where the author can write exactly what's going on in characters' heads, and they do a really good job in a lot of these scenes in the movie of cutting a lot of that kind of exposition out and getting the feeling of it on screen, even if you don't really know.
Well, this is a good time to segue into our plot summation. I feel like we're starting to talk about the plot a little bit, and I think we should get this out of the way so that we don't feel like we're
I
spoiling
don't know
anything.
how ready I am, but I think I can do it in under 2 minutes. I didn't rehearse like Harris does.
You should really whose fault is that, Colin?
Oh
Really?
shit! I did not rehearse anything.
You don't have to rehearse. This is Colin's on the spot.
I went to
here.
go rehearse, and then like,
Oh, okay. So I just sit back and watch.
Yeah, it's just Colin. All right, Colin, are you ready?
yeah.
Just let the demon take over and speak through you.
I'm
Colin.
gonna re-say the part we just talked about because I have to.
Yeah.
Because it's
Okay.
in the movie.
Whenever you're ready, just walk down those stairs, Colin. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so the movie starts out and we're like in Africa or the Middle East or something, and a bunch of people are digging through sand. It's like an excavation. And this old guy's like, "Oh shit, we found something," and like something ain't right, and like just shit ain't right. And then he looks and there's like a statue of a demon, and it's like looking at him. And then like, cut to Georgetown. We're in Georgetown. It's like America, and like there's this woman, and she's an actress in a big movie, and like, you know, she's doing her thing. And then there's this guy, and like life is just fucking beating his ass down. He's just like, I don't know, I'm a father, I'm a not a father of people, but I'm, you know, like a priest, and I do a bunch of shit, and like it's not working for me right now. I'm a priest and I'm trying, but shit sucks. And he's telling the other priest this, and he's drinking, and he's working out really hard. And then we keep cutting back and forth. We see the woman and her daughter, there's something wrong with her. She starts taking her to doctors. Doctors are like, she's just, you know, she needs Ritalin. And then she's like, I don't know, it might be worse than that. And they're like, well, maybe. And then she keeps having to take her to doctors. She starts doing weird shit, like pissing on the floor in front of the whole film crew and everybody, and like, you know, saying they're gonna die or whatever. And then yeah, it just keeps getting worse and worse. She does all these tests, like really creepy, strange tests. And then she's like, look, I need somebody to exercise, you know, like exorcise. And then they're like, oh yeah, that's probably what you need, but we're not supposed to say that because we're psychiatrists. So then she goes and she finds the priest guy, and she's like, I need this. And he's like, we don't do that anymore, but I'll do it. And then he gets a guy who's actually a good exorcist he goes up to the brass, that Catholic brass, and he's like, we need an exorcism. And they're like, oh, we don't do that, but here's the guy you need. And then they go and they fucking exorcise the shit out of that demon. But in the meantime, the demon kills a guy, and then he kills the exorcist, and then the priest guy takes the demon into him and kills himself. And then the little girl's fine, and everybody's happily ever after. Oh, there's also a detective guy chasing them. Damn, I'm out of time.
I don't think anyone was happily ever after. I don't think that's how we end that 2 minutes summary.
They're all fine.
It's fine.
They're all fine now.
They're
Well,
gonna
I
go
mean, she
live
didn't-
normal
It's doing
lives.
great.
The daughter doesn't remember it, so
maybe she is fine.
I left out the mother of the priest guy plot line, but I felt like it was kind of implied by how much he was just struggling.
Demi, why you do this?
He had mommy issues.
Demi!
Yeah, I think it's funny that the way the movie kind of one of the things I respected about it is how efficiently it tells the story, because it does totally just trust you to connect a lot of dots. Like we literally go from a scene where he's talking to his mother in the hospital, and in the very next scene, the other priest that's his buddy says, "Oh yeah, Karis is having a really hard time. His mother died and was in her apartment for like days before anybody found her." And it was like just they just ellipse, days or weeks like that all the time here.
I've seen this movie like 10 times, and there's a part where it suddenly cuts to like a subway train, and you see Karis, and he's like walking in the subway, and I thought to myself, oh wow, I didn't know DC had a subway system like that. It looks a lot like New York. And then like he does the whole scene with his mother in her apartment or whatever. It's fucking New York. Like it hit me afterwards. I'm like, oh shit, he went to New York. They didn't really like. You're supposed to get that when he comes out of the train.
I thought he told her that they used to live in New York or something like that. He
No,
acknowledges New York in the dialogue when he's talking to her.
When he's talking to the older priest, he's asking to be reassigned. He's saying, I need to go back to New York. I can't be in DC anymore because my mother's sick and I need to be near her.
Right, yeah. But I thought but so he does say in dialogue something about it.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I just fucking missed it.
And there's that other thing, like, did you, like when she says, when Reagan comes downstairs and pees on the floor at the party and she tells the guy, you're going to die up there. It wasn't until the second time I watched it that I was like, oh, he's an astronaut.
Yeah,
and then,
because
like,
they plant
you could miss
earlier-
it if you,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
What?
It's like
The
in
priest?
conversation.
No, the guy
no.
she says that to. She says, you're going to die up there.
Oh.
He's an astronaut.
He's an astronaut that's supposed to go up in space.
Oh, I thought that she was talking to the priest who was playing the piano, and he had just been talking about playing a show in heaven. And she was like, you're going to die up there, meaning on the stage in heaven.
I always thought that she was just talking about like the upstairs or something, and then I realized it was the astronaut guy because there's another conversation that he has about being an astronaut. Hey, can we talk about Father William O'Malley as Father Joseph Dyer for a second, the piano playing priest?
I like my version where she's like, oh yeah, when you get to heaven and you're playing piano on the stage in front of them, you're gonna fucking die up there. You're trash, piano man.
I'm dying up here. People aren't into what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're gonna bomb.
As an astronaut, if I heard that, I'm so superstitious. I'd be like, okay, I'm not fucking going there then. This creepy little
retire
girl
from
just pissed
astronauting.
and told me. Yeah, seriously.
I hereby.
It wasn't clear who she was talking to. I'd like a shot of like the group of them, and each of them is like, "Are you me, her, me, him, me, her?" I'd like that.
We can all die
just to
anywhere.
clarify.
Yeah, this movie it treats the audience like they're really smart. It doesn't dumb anything down.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if this was today, they would cut to that guy and he'd be like rubbing his like NASA badge or something. you
Right,
know?
exactly.
Wait, Colin, you bring up a good point. If that ever happened to me at a party, I would be like, just to confirm, who were you talking to?
And where is up there?
Yeah, like
specifically.
there's a lot of us here.
And no matter if there was a wall behind me or like nothing behind me at all, I would automatically look over my shoulder behind me as if there was something behind me. Just like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
you're talking to someone else.
Little girl, you're half asleep. Your eye line is a little wonky. Were you looking at me or were you talking to this guy?
Yeah. We're going to start predicting how people are going to die.
Your piano playing's trash. You're gonna die out there.
That is another non-actor. That's Father William O'Malley, who when I saw the piano playing, I was like, oh my God, is this guy supposed to be playing this priest super gay? But then I realized he's an actual real life priest, and this is one of his, few acting roles.
Yeah, I think he was putting on like an effeminate touch to like sort of mock.
Do you, or do you just think he was one of those priests?
He could be.
I grew up Catholic. There were a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I got a vibe that he was really a priest. I thought his performance was pretty good.
Great.
Yeah, he really wore the hell out of that collar.
Harris, did you read up on any of the the weird happenstances that happened during the making and post-production of this film?
I think I mixed up some of those in the Poltergeist in my head, because I know the Poltergeist also had a trouble.
Poltergeist has real curses. I heard a bunch of things like this that just sound like a wonky production that maybe could have used some better producers on it. I don't know. I felt like a lot of the things were kind of avoidable, whereas Poltergeist, it was like they were just fucking jinxed.
Yeah.
Well, there was a big fire that burned down most of the sets, except for Reagan's room, which was untouched. And then the two of the actors died immediately after they finished filming. The guy who played the drunken director, he died of like he had some condition, I think, that I don't know if he knew about it or if it was like a surprise thing. They don't really say that. And then the woman who played Karras's mother, she passed away like a week after.
That's not so hard to believe. He was old. She was very old. So
yeah, it's just
might not be a
coincidence.
curse. That might just be old people.
Yeah.
Oh, so I have a question for Harris since he read the book.
Speaking of old people,
is she the is the main woman? Is she an actress in the book also? And is the director guy a character in the book also? Or are these like the filmmakers' takes on like?
Yeah,
okay.
actually,
So they are.
I mean, the one difference with the book is very, the adaptation is very like similar. So the book does not give you plot-wise. There's almost no deviation at all. I would say the main difference is they don't cross-cut between developing Karras and developing Reagan getting sick and Chris, taking her to all the doctors and everything. It's sort of like you see Reagan getting sick and then you go over and you meet Karras and you see his whole backstory, and so it's like sections of the book are sort of divvied up and then they come together later, and the detective has a much bigger role, and he and Karras develop a much stronger friendship in the book. But like mostly you just get like more background on characters. Like the director, for instance, is this like flamboyant gay, problem child, aging guy who's like, always causing trouble and stirring up mischief, which you see a little bit in the movie, but it doesn't really, it's not as endearing as it is in the book, where it's, the relationship between Chris and the director is much stronger and built up a lot more. And then there's just random shit like, do you remember at the beginning of when we first meet Reagan? And she comes in and says, she talks about all what she did that day, and she's like, "Oh, we went down to the water, and there was this guy with the gray horse, and I rode it all afternoon, and blah 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 blah." And it's like, what the fuck? You met some guy at the water, and you rode his horse all afternoon? What planet is like? What world are you living in?
Was it a mare or a gelding?
Yeah,
I just thought it was because they're rich.
Yeah,
right,
I just assumed it was a rich person thing.
Horses, got it.
Yeah. It seems bizarre, but in the book you learn that like it's actually the Chris's assistant, that girl who's like her long time. She's been her assistant for like 10 years. And normally she lives with a family, but she's just recently moved out to her own apartment because she's got this hot boyfriend who's a stable boy who has horses. And so it's like they quote
I'm into
unquote
this story.
Met him down by the river, and to Reagan it was like just a coincidence, but it was actually intentional, so she could babysit and hang out with her boyfriend all day.
Oh, stable boy.
Where's the stable boy stuff from?
But it's like that doesn't have any bearing on the actual movie, so
I
they cut it out wisely. But
no, I disagree. A stable boy?
You want a more stable boy.
I think if they made this movie today, they would have cut the detective entirely, like his whole plot line, which would have.
And it doesn't finish. It like he shows up at the end and like peeps through the door, and then it's like, that's case closed. I guess.
think there was more. I think some of the deleted scenes were with him. I know there was a different ending. Which is that in the version that any of you guys watched?
Yeah, the director's cut version has him and Father Dyer, the gay priest, end up going to the movies together at the end.
You don't know he's gay.
No, we don't know he's gay. But okay, let's just call him the musical theater priest. And that's, I'm passing no judgment on musical theater or priest or gay, but he'll just be the musical theater priest if I can't remember his name.
I'm glad the detective had that I'm like glad the detective had a complete arc where he just wanted to go to the movies with a friend. And then the one he wanted to go with,
that's his arc.
Had an incident, and then he finally got to go to the movies.
We think it's about solving the case. It's about solving the case, but it's really about just making a friend to go to the movies with.
It's hard to make friends.
He came on too strong with the first priest. Like he had to like.
I would have came on real strong.
You know.
Yeah.
I want to go to the movies with him. I get it.
The Godfather. Have you seen it? Heard of it?
Got that great John Garfield look about him.
I love it.
Oh yeah, the perfect first date: smoking and boxing. Smoking cigarettes while boxing each other. Perfect first date.
So, I mean, when you boil it down, this movie's really a movie about smoking. There's a lot of smoking is like the secret star of this film. The doctor lights one up to tell Chris McNeil that her daughter is unsavable.
And I think if I'm remembering correctly, she lights one up to receive that news.
She's always holding one too. Like a lot of times when she's not smoking, she's holding a cigarette.
There's a bit in there somewhere about, and they did spoof this in a Scary Movie where it's just every scene there's more and more cigarettes like sticking out of everybody's mouth. Just keep, like
Yeah.
What about Ouija boards? Do you guys want to talk about that scene? Or like
Luigi boards?
Luigi boards? Yeah.
Waluigi boards?
Waluigi boards. Another great example of like great subtlety, because like nothing happens in that scene, but it's such an important part of the setup that something isn't right. Like she introduces us to Mr. Howdy.
Captain Howdy.
And
I think it's Captain
Captain Howdy.
Which, again, by itself is horrifying.
I'm always shortchanging people on their ranks.
Don't you ever.
Yeah.
Don't you ever demote Captain Howdy again.
Deputy?
Yeah,
I
Captain
think?
Howdy. Like the only thing that happens is the little what do you call the thing on a Ouija board? It's got a name.
Oh, it's got a cool.
Squiggle?
It's like a planchette, I think.
Oh yeah, that's
nice.
good job, Matt.
Is that
You
what
get
it's
bonus
called?
points this episode. Yeah, it is.
Get out of here. I feel like you just made up that word to sound smart.
He made up the right word.
Yeah, I thought a planchette was something I could get in my sweet green.
Have you guys... I feel like as a kid, I did the Ouija boards a lot with friends, and I was like, didn't care. I thought it was stupid. But growing up now, as an adult, I would not fuck with them. And I wonder why that is. If it's from this movie, if I just feel like, I don't know, just don't want to roll the dice. You never know.
When you're a kid, you can always use them to tell which kid thinks they're strong and has something to say, you know?
Or who has a crush on who likes who. You can do it's. I mean, it's emotional torture when you're a kid with a
It
Ouija
just
board.
keeps spelling penis. I don't get it.
That's the difference between a boys sleepover and a girls sleepover. The boys won't stop spelling penis, while the girls just want to know who likes them.
penis again.
let's and then we can go back to pausing Total Recall when the girl with 3 tits shows up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, girls did that too in their sleepover.
Okay, good. Well, thank
I
God we
feel
have
like
that in common.
Yeah, I feel like the Ouija board has caused like a lot of debates about whether or not someone's knuckles had tension in them. Like,
I'm pretty sure one of the commercials for the Ouija board is just the Ouija board, and you just hear people saying like, "Are you moving it? I'm not moving it. Are you moving it?" It's like a commercial from the 90s. I remember it very well.
But they never get into a fist fight at the end like real Ouija boards.
yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, like real Ouija boards. No, I can see your knuckles. Your third knuckle on the left hand, on the middle finger. It's got a thing going on. I can see it. You don't know how to look at knuckles.
I'm not spelling penis. It's the demon.
Harris, do you know anything, or any of you know anything about the in the director's cut? I think it's only the director's cut where the demon flashes on the screen for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you know?
It's in
Yeah,
the
I
regular
didn't know.
cut too.
Is
yeah,
it?
I was gonna say they added more in the director's cut.
Oh, they probably
Okay.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened a lot of times in the director's cut.
In the theatrical,
Even before she starts before they admit that she's possessed, it happens. You know.
Yeah, I think I might be confused because I have watched both of them recently, but I think in the theatrical, it's all the times they cut away for just a frame to the demon face, and I think it's only like twice or 3 times. But when the whole screen is the demon face, just intercut with other stuff, I think that's from the original. And there was a lot of superimpositions of other stuff in the director's cut that they added. So whenever like they have the demon's face and they have Karis's mother's face is superimposed on the window for a flash. So I think they added some superimpositions in existing shots on the
I think
director's
there's something
cut.
on the kitchen stove hood.
Right, I
Maybe?
think that's the director's cut one. They flash
Okay.
the demon's face on the hood. Yeah, so I think all the superimpositions were from the director's cut. And I think in the original it was just like flash frames of the actual face. Some were pretty obvious. Some weren't like subliminal at all because they were like multiple frames.
Yeah, I watched the theatrical. It was just during Karras's dream sequence when he sees his mother coming out of the subway
Which was
station.
awesome.
Yeah, I love that whole
horrifying.
sequence. It flashes
good.
on the screen real quick, and then I think that's it. I think it happens one other time at the end, like
Is
during
there the one where
exorcism.
she's in? In the original? Is there one where she's in the hospital being treated and she looks up and opens her eyes and it flashes?
No, that's definitely not there.
Okay, that was another
was in the
big one.
director's cut.
Yeah, that was another big one that was in the director's cut. I think there's one at the end too in the original.
There's
like,
one
when
at the
she's-
end. I
when-
can't remember exactly. I know like there's a part when she's like the demon monster at the end where like her face turns to camera and you see it like superimposed over her face.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, like it literally looks like they took a projector and just like blasted a picture of it onto her face.
I think the director's cut was better because of this. Like, to me, the face isn't that scary unless it's like there's more of it.
I freeze framed it. That face is fucking scary.
It's really scary.
It's horror.
Yeah.
It's
It is
it
a really
is.
scary face. I was like, oh, that looks kind of cheesy in the flash, and I freeze framed it. And I was like, oh god, they went all out. They were not fucking around with this face. It's
Do you
spooky looking.
think this face is scarier than the movie with Patrick Wilson that they've made a series now? They made a franchise.
Insidious?
Thank you. Yes, Insidious. Yeah, that movie where there's a flash of the red face behind him.
Oh, the Darth
No,
Maul.
it's not even a flash. He peeks around.
Yeah,
he like looks
it's-
around from the side
is
of him.
it Darth
It's
Maul?
awesome.
No, it just looks like
Oh,
him.
what a
Seriously, it looks just like Darth Maul.
what a way to cross franchises.
It
Holy
looks,
shit.
It looks like a dwarf Darth Maul.
Told you, it's all about branding.
Okay, so the exorcism is scarier for demon flashes.
Freeze framing it, it's definitely that one looks is cheesier than the Exorcist one, which looks like seriously scary.
Oof, yeah.
So here's my argument against the director's cut. I feel like a lot of shit they cut out was actually good cuts of stuff we didn't need, and they cut out the ending is kind of lame with the detective walk. It's like a happy ending to a movie that really shouldn't have a real happy ending.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
And they also have a lot of
Fine.
they have a lot of extra hospital scenes where they're trying to diagnose her. Like I said, I think the spider walk downstairs is cool, but I don't think it fits.
It comes
in
too
the,
early.
Escalation of I don't think it fits in the escalation of tension. The one moment that is in the director's cut that isn't in the real one that I think actually works really well is there's a moment where when Father Marin shows up and Father Karras and they're doing the exorcism and they go through like their first round with the demon. And then they go out and they're both sitting on the stairs right outside the door. And in the director's cut, Father Karras asks, why her? Why did he choose this innocent girl? And Father Marin says, it's not about her. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, it's not about her. It's not just to hurt her. It's about making all of us question whether, if there was a God, whether he really loves us. Because how could he let this happen if he existed? So it's all about like shaking our faith. And it's like, it's actually pretty eloquent. It's from the book. And it kind of works. I know it's kind of like stating the whole obvious theme of the movie, which is I think why Friedkin cut it. But for me, I kind of needed that one moment because if you don't have it, then you don't really understand why Karras bails and then comes back. You know, like he does, like it's almost like I feel like the end of the movie is stronger if you kind of understand Karras' thinking, because first he bitches out of the exorcism. He's like, I can't handle this shit, and he goes downstairs, and then he comes back and he finds that Father Marin has died of a heart attack, and he flips out and starts punching the demon and tells it to possess him and saves the day. But like, you don't know why he makes that decision. And I feel like Father Marin, and you also give Father Marin, who basically shows up and then dies of a heart attack halfway through the job, you give him, at least he did something then. Like he
inspired
gave
him.
the inspiration to the younger priest to come finish the job, you know?
I mean, I feel like the older priest went there knowing he was probably gonna die.
Right, exactly. But he's passed along, like he's helped restore Father Karras' faith in some way if he's actually spoken to him instead of just going, well, I'm gonna take my heart pills. You know?
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. I didn't watch the director's cut, but I'm curious to check it out now.
Yeah, Harris, I know you're criticizing the director's cut, but like after watching the director's cut today and even hearing the things that you say are negative, I absolutely think director's cut is better, hands down.
We've established you don't have very good taste, though, with the other movies we've done. So I feel like
we've established that doesn't matter. Here's the big question about this scene is when they go out there after the priest, he uses his little sash thing to soak up some of that like demon goo that she's, lightly spit up during the process. And he takes it into the bathroom with hot water alone and comes back out with it looking like it is fresh and new. And the old man is ready to put it back on his body after it had the demon goo all over it.
Did that
with
take you
hot
out of the
water
moment?
alone. Yes.
My biggest
course it took
concern.
me out.
My biggest concern was that
That's a laundry miracle.
there is no way that dried off, and you're going to walk back into the cold room with that. It's going to freeze.
In the director's
Yeah,
cut,
what the
he
hell?
actually goes downstairs to the washer machine and he uses some Clorox.
Dries
and
it, yeah.
There's a whole sequence where he's just standing
There's
there
a whole scene of him
smoking.
with a hairdryer in the bathroom, just going like this. And just,
Yeah.
It's like 5 minutes long. It's real time.
There's a lot of Tide product placement.
Yeah. It goes into this weird commercial segment.
Hot water alone can't do that. I'm sorry.
I've got a question. For you guys. It's like a little informal poll. I feel like there's some really good names of actors in this movie. So I just wanted to ask, what is the best name? This is a matter of opinion. This is a totally subjective thing. So here's my top contenders.
These are character
Max von
names.
Sydow.
Oh, actor. Okay.
Yeah, actor names. Max von Sydow, Lee J. Cobb, Kitty Wynn, or Arthur Storch, who plays the psychiatrist.
Wow. They're all so good.
You forgot Rudolf Schundler.
Yeah, I'm ruling out Rudolf Schundler just because it sounds a little Nazi, which he's been accused of in this very movie.
He plays a guy named Carl. He's definitely a fucking Nazi.
Carl with a K.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's actually interesting. This movie was a little bit ahead of its time with someone screaming at a Nazi and then getting in a fight with him. I think it really connects
Yeah,
what's
exactly.
happening in America where you just want to punch a Nazi in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's to think we're still fighting this fight. I also thought it was on that subject. I thought it was really funny that the movie that she's shooting, she's telling the campus rebels that they've got to work within the system to change it,
The
and then
system
they're
is
like,
so great.
they're like, the system's broken. We gotta riot in the streets.
And that was a lot of extras who were really into it.
Yeah. What's funny is in the book they describe it as like a comedy. Like it almost seems like it's like Animal House, and it is.
Yeah.
It clearly isn't.
I actually still think it could be that after watching it today.
That's
I
true.
don't know.
So wait, do we have any? Do anybody want to make an argument for Arthur Storch?
It's good.
We're talking like best name or the name we would want for ourselves.
Just best name. It's not necessarily. You don't have to have the name. Just best
The
name.
Cobb.
Yeah, Cobb. Lee J. Cobb.
Yeah.
Lee J. Cobb.
Lee J. Cobb.
V. Cobb.
Yeah, man.
As
V.
I call
Cobb. Mr. Cobb to you.
Just
Mr.
call me
Cobb,
Cobb.
if you're nasty. Yeah. Lieutenant
I
William
wanna,
F. Kinderman, played by Lee J. Cobb.
I want to be in like a buddy story with him, like Colin Shaw and Lee J. Cobb. Sean Cobb.
Let's talk about some of the imagery in this movie, specifically like the demon itself, the statue, and then like you've got the little Saint Joseph medallion. Like, what did all that stuff mean to you guys? And the medallion keeps coming back, and we don't really get a firm explanation of what's going on there. I did a little bit of reading, but I'll let us like discuss it first. But yeah, what do you guys think of all that stuff? Harris and Colin, I sent you guys a picture of the statue. I didn't realize it. They cut to it so quickly and don't hold on it, but it's got a serpent, like a snake, for a penis, and it's like huge. And
A huge erect snake.
Yeah, I can't believe I never saw that before. It was.
Yeah, it's weird you never noticed that after all the times you've had sex with demons.
Yeah.
But how often do you look at it? You just say, "Is it in?"
A lot of the imagery for me is, like Harris said, growing up Catholic, seeing all the items that the priest uses. It's eerie for me because you grow up learning about how precious and how you're supposed to respect these items, and to see them used in this way in this movie still is like so shocking to me because you grow up, like everything is very precious, and she's just vomiting all over the priest's robes and the sash and all that. So for me, that always kind of was very jarring to me, and maybe that's one of the reasons why this movie stuck with me so bad.
And the defiling of the statue in the church, I forgot. about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
In the book, they have a lot of it's a lot about this, I don't know, iconography. Obviously, it opens in Iraq with them digging up actual relics, and the relic that they dig up. You remember the part at the beginning when the guy in Iraq says, "Evil that fights evil," or something like that. Well, that's like the demon relic that he keeps seeing there. Is that's
Just gonna
scary
hold
looking.
that. Just gonna hold that up throughout the podcast.
But the demon that he sees there is like it's a good luck charm that the people used to ward off other evil demons. So they had a good luck charm of an evil demon to fight off other evil demons. And I think that's sort of like Karras's pendant. And there's all this like charms and mysticism that I think is incorporated. I mean, I think it's all kind of mumbo jumbo. And I don't know that there's like, even reading the book, it's not like they have a real clear idea of what the rules are of this thing, but it is all kind of, little bits of good luck charms and things to ward off evil presences and superstitions.
I read up on it a little bit because I was confused too, and so they said a common misconception about this movie is that the Saint Joseph medallion that they find at the excavation site in the beginning is not the same one that is at the end of the movie that she gives to the other priest, the gay one. What's his name?
Right. Yeah, that's the one, the
Dyer.
musical theater priest,
Yeah.
Dyer. Yeah.
She gives it to him, and I read in the director's cut he actually gives it back to her. But
Yes,
yeah.
true. But that
He
doesn't
does.
make any sense. It's weird.
Yeah. But what it's supposed to... Sorry, I'm hearing some eerie sounds in the house that I'm in right now.
Yeah, that's disturbing.
You hear that? Oh, it was just a refrigerator, I think. Like an ice maker.
A possessed refrigerator?
Honestly, that's a really scary thing to imagine, is a possessed refrigerator. Like, that's where we keep the food.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
Fucking touch my food. Just real quick, the effect of this movie is earlier I held up, for your listeners, I held up the demon face that flashes to the camera so everyone could see it. And then I went to go close Chrome, and I didn't want the Exorcist on my phone in a Chrome tab, so I Googled something else to cover it. So I just Googled The Office, something that makes me happy, because I didn't even want that in a tab on my phone.
Yeah.
Just because it's just in case.
You can never be too superstitious.
It makes no
weird.
sense, guys. Yeah.
That superstition is real, though, because I took a screenshot of the demon statue earlier, and I sent it to Harris and Colin. And then, a couple minutes went by, and I realized the picture was still on my desktop, and I put it in the trash, and I deleted it. I
Yep.
just didn't want it on my desktop. It's weird, right?
You just don't want to fuck with this. You just don't want to. Like, just don't roll the dice.
Just in case.
Yep.
Just in case.
I think the face one is, I think the voice and like the stuff she's doing when she's possessed is actually scarier than the face itself to me. I don't know.
I mean, we don't see the face that much. It is just flashes.
Maybe
but it is.
it's because I have to look at my own face. Like, other scary faces aren't scary. I don't know.
Also, another thing you have to remember is, like, when this movie came out, there was no DVDs that you could, like, just, you can take a screenshot of it and, like, really examine the face and see what it is. Like, back then, you saw it in the theater, and it was just a flash and just something burned into your brain forever until the advent of, like, home video.
Do you guys think that there were some people who claimed they didn't see it? And then there's friends who was like, did you see when the demon flashed on the screen? And, like, a friend might have missed it and was like, what are you talking about? Like, how much would that have fucked people up?
I totally would have done that.
Well, and this was like
You would have been the friend who said no?
Yeah. Not
This
a
was-
thing at all.
scandalous at the time because people thought there was so many more subliminal messages in this, and everyone was like, oh yeah, in the smoke they make a skull, and in this they do this, and like they thought it was like they were advocating demonic subservience or whatever with all these hidden messages in this thing. And really it was only a couple of flash frames, but
I think Friedkin
got a lot
even
of
said, I
for it.
read a quote, and he was like, by definition, if you can see it, it's not subliminal. So we're not, like,
Right.
putting subliminal imagery in here, you
Yeah.
idiots. It's just like a literal, you're meant to see it,
yep.
Yeah, I totally would have come out of the theater pretending I didn't see the face, and also, like I did in the summary, stressing the fact that everything worked out fine. I probably would have made someone else go fucking berserk.
All's well that ends well.
Everything worked out. What are you talking about? You saw demon face. Everything was fine. You see that? She's fine.
Jenna, what's your favorite part of this movie?
Whenever
the hot priest is part of it. No, I'm just kidding.
Good answer. Good answer.
How do you feel about how he always has the collar like undone, where the white part's like hanging? You know,
he's just
like,
a bad boy. He's a bad boy of Catholicism.
His faith is just hanging on by a thread.
That's how you're like. That's how you're like. Yeah, vow of abstinence, but also and celibacy, but also kind of looking. You know, like available.
And also
like
I just feel like I could fix him, like as a woman. You know, that's a lot.
Exactly.
You know, I just feel like I could help him find God again.
Yeah.
My favorite part of this movie, I think just the whole exorcism scene. Like, I know it sounds cliche, but the exorcism is my favorite part of The Exorcist. It's just nonstop dread and horribleness, and it's like a sprint. Like the whole movie is kind of like a slow jog up to all this dread, and then you just have this intense scene that I feel like when I watch it, I'm clenched and I'm like oddly sore afterwards. And I just can't think of another scene from a horror movie that's really done that for me. And also the hot priest is part of it.
Yeah, they pull out all the stops in that scene. They got the pea soup and the spinning head and the levitation, and of course all the power of Christ compels you stuff. That's
it's over the top.
All the fireworks end up in that scene.
Yeah, when you're a kid, you're like, that was fucking crazy and scary. And I mean, maybe as an adult, some of the stuff leading up to it, I love the one of my favorite transitions is how the movie relaxes you. It's like, Chris is chasing Reagan around the house and it's sweet, and it's like smash cuts to the screaming subway, and you're just like
yeah.
And I just love
there's
the
a
way
couple
the
of
movie
really
does
good
that.
audio transitions that just like are just fuck you up.
Yeah, there's a lot of good audio like choices too. There's a part when she's walking down the street and she sees Karis and she's like intrigued by him, and she's like overhearing him talk to another priest, and then there's like a plane flying overhead and it like drowns out whatever he's saying, and then it transitions into something else.
This won an Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay and also for sound mixing. It was nominated for like 10 of them. It was nominated for
all the actors,
actress, supporting actor, supporting actress, director, cinematographer, editing,
and best picture.
Production design, and Best Picture. And and it won for Adapted Screenplay and sound mix. Matt, what was your favorite part?
Well, I don't know what my specific favorite like scene is, but there are two things that I really appreciate about this movie. The editor in me like really is attuned to like the pacing, and Jenna kind of touched on that too, but like the build of this movie and the pacing throughout is great. And it's like, we talked about it when we did like Star Trek the motion picture, even though Harris hated that. Like, I just like a slow burn. I just like when movies take their time, because too many times I feel like even as a kid I would notice, like, I'm a big fan of the Alien movies, and we'll probably cover them at some point. But like the first Alien movie, you don't see the alien for like an hour into the movie, and it's again like a great build. Whereas like
kind of like how The Exorcist doesn't show up in The Exorcist until the last like 25 minutes or something.
Yeah, exactly. But like Alien 3 and 4, like you see the alien literally in like the title, like the opening credits. It's like the first 30 seconds of the movie, and it just like kind of demystifies. It's like when you get a prequel to like Michael Myers and you see him as a kid and stuff, like you don't want to see that, like
you don't want to blow your wad that early in. Yeah, basically, is what you're saying.
To put it in discussing terms, yes.
That's what you invited me for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, we just needed you to translate our normal civilized talk into disgusting terms.
Yes.
So I've got a question,
I like those
because
jokes too.
I do want to talk about the editing, because I think the editing overall was great, and I thought there were some like one of the lessons I kind of learned from this was how many times they had they had some great transitions between scenes, and sometimes they would just cut a scene short at the end and just move to another scene, and there was no transition at all. It was like, okay, she just found out some bad news from the doctor, and just like in mid reaction cut to Georgetown campus, and now we're going to see Father Karras walking somewhere, like. And there was also at least one moment where when she finds out that the director died, and there's like 6 cuts really quickly together where she's like going through a range of emotions. At first she doesn't have any reaction, and then she turns around and like punches the wall, and and it was
because that's
weird
the spider
and cutty.
scene. That's where the spider scene was, so they had to cut around that.
Well, it didn't come till after she was done sort of doing all that. So that was one of those weird things that I was like, it was just a weird moment where I was like, it is so well cut that some of the cuts were kind of strangely not well done, which I thought was kind of odd.
I think the jump cuts really get you feeling the frustration of the mother character.
That's a good point.
She just keeps going to these doctors, and they're just like, yeah, it's this. She'll be fine, whatever, and then we're done here. Like, give me the money. Like, literally, that's what these doctors are doing. Like, yeah, she'll be fine. Like, we're done here. Give me
That's
some
probably
money.
what they were going for, was like some intentional,
Yeah.
choppiness there to get her. Which actually brings me to my favorite part of the movie, which was when that doctor gets bitch slapped.
Do you guys see my
I
cat?
love that.
When he's like, everything's under
heard the
control.
cat.
This is just a psychological problem. Just slap him across the room.
Sorry, if my cat is meowing. I don't want to. That could actually be creepy in this context. So so everyone knows, my cat is meowing very loudly, and it's not just a really creepy thing.
Everyone knows cats can only get possessed by angels.
That's true.
Did you see Winky come up here and meow directly into the mic earlier?
Yeah, I saw
He
it.
like walked up and he was just like,
I've got
"Meow.
something to say.
I want a podcast too."
Well, Harris,
Yes.
so back to the pacing and the doctors and stuff. I feel like this movie is borderline, like one more doctor scene, and it would have been like, all right, come on, we fucking get it that she's
That's the
going
director's
to
cut.
doctors.
That's the director's cut. It's literally
Yeah.
another long doctor scene.
Yeah, he's right.
I like it.
But the second
I like
thing,
it.
the second thing that I really appreciate about this movie is the makeup work that they did on Max von Sydow. He is 44
3 years older than me
Yeah.
when he 3 years older than me when he made this movie.
Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah.
He I literally thought he was an old man.
Yeah, he looks 80.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was closer. He was I think 14 years removed from doing The Seventh Seal, where he plays the pretty young knight, and like 30 years from Minority Report, where he looks exactly like this again. He basically played.
That's what's great about it.
He played an old man for another 40 years.
That's right. Minority Report was actually the first movie I ever bought on DVD. Little fun fact about me.
Wow.
Nice.
And
They knew you were going to buy that.
Jenna, you might know him from he's from The Force Awakens. He's in the very first scene of the movie.
Yeah, he's on Game of. He's the replacement Three-Eyed Raven on
Yeah.
Game
Oh,
of Thrones
right,
as well.
yeah,
That's
he's
how
on that,
it's crazy because he looks. The old man makeup is incredible. Like, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And did he die recently? He did, right?
Yeah,
think
I think just this year.
Yeah. And Karras is dead too. That actor, Jason Miller.
Yep.
Like, a lot
Wow.
of people are dead.
Way to break my heart.
Yeah. People die. This just in. People die.
I wanted to say some kind of like R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman thing, but this isn't going to come out until October. So R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman. It just happened like recently, but not really. But
Not really, because this is October.
yeah.
Someone else has died though, so R.I.P. to them.
Yeah.
Oh, Matt.
I'm sure 2020 will take someone, knock on wood, someone else
Oh, yeah.
from us too soon.
I don't like where this went.
Yeah, sorry. Pivot.
Yeah, we're cutting all this.
Oh no.
Well, Colin, did you talk about your favorite scene?
Oh God!
I-
Don't tempt
Oh,
fate here,
so
Jenna.
I'm new, I'm sorry,
There's a
I'm new,
reason
I'm
that we
just-
there's a reason that
I'm
we
just-
skipped him. All right,
Okay,
go ahead,
got it.
Colin.
There's like a few things I want to say that you probably will all hate. Okay, one thing, like, the scene we were talking about when they start saying the power of Christ compels you, like, yeah, it's like really scary and terrifying and intense and stuff. But don't you guys love the bro moment when they like look at each other, like acknowledging that they're both saying the same thing at the same time, and they're like, "Yeah, we're doing it together.
Yeah.
We are."
This is
We're
like that
bros.
penis thing with the Ouija board, dude.
I just love the bro moment. Like, yeah, we're both shouting the power of
I
Christ.
felt your hand move too.
I felt like
man.
there was
Same
there
direction.
was two great actor chemistry things in this. One was Karras. One was with what's his name, Jason Williams, not Jason Williams.
Jason Miller.
Jason Miller and
Jason
Max von
Patrick.
Sydow. And the other one is Ellen Burstyn and Linda Blair. I thought really had good like mother-daughter chemistry early in the movie.
Yeah, when she like chases her and tackles her and tickles her for some reason, you're like, oh.
Yeah, or when she's putting her to bed, and just like in general, I just felt like that was like a real, maternal
Yeah, it felt
relationship.
real.
There are a lot of parts where you really feel like a director's touch. Like in that scene when she's putting her to bed, it just hangs on Reagan's face forever, for a long time. And I'm like, that's great because it gets you to really like kind of fall in love with this girl, so that when all this horrible shit starts to happen to her, you really like, feel for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always say like I hate child actors, but she's really good.
Yeah, she was
She
relatively
is, she is.
unknown when she got cast, I think.
She was so incredible. I mean, it's kind of like, could she ever be seen as anything else but that?
She did a sequel.
It's,
that probably
she
hurt
did.
her more than anything.
Yeah.
I think she did porn. Did she do porn, or did she just pose nude or something?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure she did something like that.
Did you guys want to talk about the spoof of The Exorcist and Scary Movie 3? No?
Is it Scary
I
Movie
haven't
3
seen
or
Scary
2?
Movie 3 in a long time.
Oh, it's personally my favorite scary movie. I didn't know if we were going to ever talk about that.
Let's talk about Scary Movie 3.
Well, I just want to segue into James Woods. That's all.
Is Colin,
All right,
is
let's
Colin
do it.
vomiting?
Yeah.
Wait.
He vomited
Wait,
a cat.
I've got some Linda Blair info. I'm
Okay.
Wikipedia-ing
Sorry.
her.
This episode is
No,
brought
it-
to you by cats.
It was really hard to get him. It was really hard to get him.
This is actually very disturbing. At age 15, Blair dated Australian singer Rick Springfield, who she met at a concert at the Whiskey A Go Go. So,
poor girl.
yeah, Rick
Wait,
Springfield.
is that the guy who does that one song? The,
You know, I wish that I had Jesse's girl.
Oh,
I
he
wish
does
that I
Jesse's
had
Girl?
Jesse's girl.
Are we
That's him.
sure?
That's
He's
Rick
not-
Springfield.
Rick Springfield, yeah.
He's not cool in real life?
He was a soap opera actor, and he sang
Yeah.
that song. And he dated 15-year-olds apparently.
Yeah.
She also dated the
Oh, I
bassist
missed that
from
part.
Deep
That's
Purple.
bad.
Yeah, dating
I missed the
15-year-olds is
15.
bad.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, we're gonna
that's
go
bad.
ahead and we're gonna go ahead and go out on a limb, and we,
Yeah.
as the License to Watch podcast, will not endorse adults dating
Yeah.
15-year-olds. That is bad.
Well, I mean, Rick
Agreed.
Springfield was only 16 at the time, so it's not so bad. But
In 1982.
Is that true?
no,
I don't think that's true.
No, that is
no
not
one
true.
jumped
Make
on
Jesse's
that
Girl as
for a
a
long
16-year-old.
time.
That is not true. In 1982, which was many years later, while she was an adult, she did pose topless for Wee magazine.
Oh, okay. Go on, girl.
Yeah,
That
we be picking that
is-
magazine up.
That's Wee as in the French for yes. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Exactly.
Oh, and in the interview, she said she found Rick James very sexy. Somebody showed Rick James that, and they ended up dating for a few years.
Okay.
Awesome.
A few years. Wow.
What a
Awesome.
roller
I
Wouldn't expect
coaster.
that.
Yep.
Okay.
All
What's
right.
Jason Miller been up? What did he do? What's he up to before this? What's his dating life like? What
He went
who did
back
he
to the
date?
priesthood. No,
Shame.
he remained tortured and haunted throughout his career, where basically he just did small theater for the he was in a couple of things. He directed his own he directed a film version of his play The Championship Season, which was actually pretty well reviewed, but wasn't
God,
in
his
too many more. Oh, you know
cheekbones.
what? He was the this is the only in his entire filmography. This is the only thing that I would recognize. So maybe it's the only thing you guys would recognize. He was the Notre Dame coach in the movie Rudy.
Oh, I knew
okay.
that. I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew him
Right?
from somewhere.
Yeah.
I've seen Rudy more
He
times.
didn't, but he didn't believe in Rudy, and he had to be chided into putting him into the game.
You
Yeah.
fool.
You know Vince Vaughn's in that movie?
I did know
And
that.
John Favreau, right?
Yep.
And John Favreau.
Maybe that's where they met,
It is.
and they were like, "Let's do swingers."
They were extras together.
They have speaking parts.
Oh, there's some other movie where they're extras together. Then it's like School Ties or something like that.
Oh yeah, School Ties. Actually, Vince Vaughn has a speaking part in School Ties.
Ah, fuck it. I don't know. It's one of those sports movies from the early '90s.
sports.
Speaking of extras, I was gonna say before, don't you think it's kind of meta? Like, imagine being cast. You know, you're an extra in a movie.
Sorry, we got a cat running amok here.
Amok.
He's amok.
He's totally amok. Oh, he's calmed down. I think the other
Hi,
one's running amok.
Angel.
All right, sorry.
What have you been doing today?
Just running amok.
Okay.
Mostly sleeping though. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, imagine being an extra in the scene where they're playing movie extras in this. So like, it's kind of meta. You're an extra playing it. Like that's how they
Yeah.
get
That
into
would
the
be
role.
a great gig.
Yeah, you're playing an
extra
extra
as an extra.
Can you imagine where like you're an extra, so you probably just get the sides or whatever for that day, or less than that, and then you're like, I was in this movie, I was just an extra. Let's go watch it. Let's go see it. Like, bring your mom and your dad to see you as an extra in this film, and then suddenly it's your mother sucks cock in hell, and you're not supposed to see. Aren't you proud of me, Mom?
That's another thing. Is
Matt-
like we're talking
Matt
about.
can shed some light on being an extra in a movie.
Oh yeah,
He's the expert on extras.
we already talked about Star Trek. I'll leave that for another time. But yeah, I'm in
Okay,
the
well,
Star
I don't
Trek
mean to brag, but I married a stand-in. I married a man who did stand-in, so not to brag.
It is a big.
Is
deal.
that different?
When are you getting the real husband?
I know. I think he
Oh,
was a
you mean
stand-in
he did-
for
oh, okay.
on Cowboys and Aliens.
I'm just glad he's getting
nice.
work, because when we got graduated from USC, me and Matt looked at each other and were like, oh, not going to happen. Not I'm glad he's found his niche as a stand-in.
I mean, he no longer does that, but he was at one point.
Oh, they let
before I
him go.
met him.
You're going to have to bring him on after we're done recording, because I want to say hi.
He's been sitting
yeah.
right there off camera the whole time.
Yeah. just
I'm
crying.
pretty sure he's just staring at me.
That cat
Pretty
meow
sure
you
he's-
heard, that was Kyle.
Yeah, I actually don't have any cats. Well, that'd be so creepy.
He dresses
He's
up
in the
like
other
a cat.
room.
You know why he can't stand in anymore, right?
Here
Oh
we
boy.
go.
He stood out too much.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's almost nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
That's
It doesn't have to
that's
be
an.
mean to be funny.
Are you insulting him?
No,
I will fight you. Physically
Colin,
I
fight
wasn't
you.
though.
you
was
crossed the
being
line
nice.
here.
Colin,
Cross the
my
line.
God, man.
I won't have you talking bad about him and his stand-in skills.
But I didn't.
Yeah. All right, Colin. It's all on tape. We've got it all.
Speaking of tape, his fucking tape recorder with those huge buttons. There was something about that. I just wanted one real bad. I don't know.
Yeah, I missed
When he's,
that.
like, listening to the-
takeaway.
I missed the
The buttons were like this big.
I just remember
like-
I missed the noise, growing up
that
in the
satisfying
80s and 90s of-
ka-chunk.
Yeah.
Oh.
Kids today, they don't know. It's just a tap on a screen.
So
Yeah.
it's
The
just not
buttons were
same.
so big on his tape recorder. It was reel to reel. It was too
Yeah.
real, if you know what I mean.
too legit to quit.
So this is just a takeaway I had, and I don't know if you guys are gonna like it, but we've talked before. I know at least with Matt. I think with Matt and Harris, we've talked before about my fantasy of playing a washed-up middle relief pitcher in some kind of movie about whatever reason you would have to have your main character be a washed-up middle relief pitcher. And I was just thinking about how badass it would be is if towards the end of his career, the manager doesn't want to put him in games unless it's absolutely necessary in the very end of the game. And then they start nicknaming him the Exorcist because he's like old as hell and the methods he uses aren't even like recognized by
The church?
baseball science anymore. Yeah, and then they play that music and you're just like running out of the dugout with that music like ding 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 ding. Like he comes out and he starts striking people out, and they're like, "Oh, it's black magic. He's the Exorcist."
I have no idea. You lost me so quickly there, and I assume that made sense.
I'm with you.
I
No,
don't know.
Colin, I'm with you on this journey. So I want to hear
Yeah.
more about this. I want to hear more about his backstory.
Are you pitching? Are you pitching a sports movie idea?
Yes,
I thought for sure this
always.
was going to lead to the Jazzercist somehow.
Oh my god, it's in my notes.
Don't bring up
I was
the
saving
Jazzercist,
it.
man.
I was
Jesus.
saving.
We almost got through the entire fucking podcast without bringing up the Jazzercist.
I just picture Colin's psychotic notes like written in Sharpie, like must bring up the Jazzercist.
It's just that one note over and over.
Yeah.
It's all work and no
Don't
play.
forget.
Nick Jack and
Those-
Dull Boy.
Those Z's that have been like scratched through several sheets of paper. Jazzercist. Jenna, you know they have The Exorcist, right? And they have The Exercise, and you have Exercise, and you have Jazzercise. So why don't you have the Jazzercist?
Jenna, was there a
Is-
part where you didn't get what the Exorcist Jazzercist thing that you needed?
I honestly
explained, or-
blacked out when I heard Jazzercist. I just completely just blacked out.
Just
Wouldn't
thinking
you
of leg
love to see
warmers.
a movie that's all about someone getting possessed by jazz?
Okay, now I'm back on board, to be honest.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's all that jazz.
Yeah.
I think they made that movie. It stars Roy Scheider, who also starred in The French Connection, which you guys have never seen, but was also directed by William Friedkin. It's all coming back around.
Wow. That's the 70s for you.
Yep. It was, everyone was on coke, and everything was directed by William Friedkin.
I have two more things to say.
Please do.
Yes. One of them is Jenna said before, your mother sucks cocks in hell. And that's something that we don't really talk about anymore.
We should all think about. Yeah, we should just think about that a little more. Like, where does your mother suck cocks?
Everybody,
And is it hell?
Everybody, call your mother tomorrow and
Yeah.
say hi. Is what we're getting
Don't
at.
bring up cock sucking.
If your mother's sucking cocks at home with your dad and not in hell.
This This movie is weirdly quotable. Like, it's still quotable.
It's
for
got a
movie
lot
in
of good ones.
1973. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
That
Actually,
people would quote it in 2020.
Yeah, that's something I want to bring up is that the devil is kind of sassy. And kind of a
yeah.
troll in this movie. Like,
He
your
watches
mother's in here.
Bravo.
Yeah, totally. Like, your mother's in here with us. If you want to leave a message, I'll be sure that she gets it. Like, that's kind
Oh,
of a
yeah.
bitchy thing
Yeah.
to say.
That
a
was
lot
bitchy.
of attitude. Yeah.
Little tood.
But
And every slap is a full-on stage mom bitch slap.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh,
the whole
100%.
front of the hand across the face, just the entire
Oh my
thing.
God, this devil is a
instant
sassy
red marks
bitch.
on everyone's face.
Yeah. This devil would kill on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh, 100%.
Pazuzu.
It's all about attitude.
That's the
I would
name
watch
of the
a Bravo
demon.
spinoff about this devil.
Yeah. Absolutely. It could happen.
Do you guys know that the demon's name is Pazuzu?
Oh yeah, and that sounds like a RuPaul Drag Race contestant. name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
it does.
And
Yeah.
here's
I
Pazuzu.
think we just had a little breakthrough here. Yeah.
We
Agreed.
are family. Starts playing. Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say that I feel like when this movie came out in 1973, those lines coming out of a little girl's mouth were like so shocking. When like today,
They're still pretty shocking.
kids all talk like that. Let's be real.
I don't know. Kids aren't that
I
creative.
did not.
I don't think kids are that creative with their swearing, but they definitely know all those words.
Yes. Yes, they
Yeah, this,
certainly do.
this movie drops the C word a lot. I was like, damn, this probably like because there was a real controversy when it only got rated R, and I thought that was kind of funny, but then I saw the graphic blood again and all the profanity, and I was like, yeah, I guess that is at a time when you were supposed to have an extra rating for things that were extra bad.
Yeah.
That was X.
They use it as a verb with the ing also.
Yeah,
hunting.
that I thought that
That's-
was interesting.
That-
uh,
Well, that was a specific thing because the devil's impersonating the director in that, and that's something from the book that like he says cunting a lot in the book. So that's how you know that it's like supposed to be the devil impersonating him.
he does
is
say
that
it
it
once
says cunting.
in this movie.
Does he? 'Cause
Yeah.
Maybe in the party scene.
It's when he's talking to the Nazi, right before the guy attacks him.
Oh right, yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's right.
He's like,
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought he said fucking. Maybe that's what I thought I heard.
I
when he was
noticed it the
talking to
second
him.
time I watched it. He says cunting. Yeah.
I only
okay.
noticed that he calls him a Nazi. Like, and I didn't
I think it's a
realize
Nazi
he was
pig.
the same Butler guy.
I have never seen or heard the word cunting anywhere else other than this movie and
Hmm.
book. But I know that
Ooh.
the English use it more than we do, so maybe they have a little more liberal use of it.
It was in a video game I
Let's
played
give him-
recently. That word.
Let's give him cunting to talk about.
Title
The
of your
word
biography.
cunting was in a video game.
It was. Yeah. I don't know if it's The Last of Us
The
Part
new
2.
Zelda game.
Oh,
Yeah, it's Nintendo's going really. They're just going on
Yeah.
a path. No, it was in The
very
Last of Us
dark
Part 2.
stuff.
Yeah, she.
me, a cunting of Mario.
Well, spoiler alert to the fans out there who haven't played it yet. The Last of Us
Yeah.
Part 2 includes
And
the
it's-
word cunting.
It's interesting because she in the subtitles she's basically hit before she finishes it, but like she says it. And I think it's the first time I heard that in a video game. The other woman deserved it to be called that.
Breaking new ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apologies to the listeners who are offended by it because I've now said it like 10 times.
I mean, I always think it's like I would never use that word, but I say twat occasionally, and I feel like twat
same.
isn't as bad. But I think in England it's the opposite. I think they don't think the C word's that bad, but they think twat is a little
And
worse.
Fanny means pussy.
I was also told Australians use the C word quite a bit as well, like in
yeah.
everyday conversation or like just as a casual thing.
It's Australian for beer.
Yeah.
That one was pretty bad.
It's probably, I think they probably use it how we say like dick or like this dude or, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time that we move on to. We can. It's time for us to reflect on this movie. I mean, did we
What we learned?
Did we learn anything going in?
I learned lots of things. I learned so many things. I learned that pathological states can induce abnormal strength, accelerated motor performance. Did you
I
guys
knew
know
that already.
Well,
Oh, yeah, I got a weird
just
story
learned it.
about that.
Let's hear it.
okay.
I swear, if this is a segue into jazzercise again or jazzercist,
No, this is
This is some
absolutely
elaborate
I
pun.
just know it.
This is absolutely true story with zero jazz in it. Okay, so when I went to the first time I went to college before I dropped out and then went back to college, I went to Texas Tech, and we were at a big football game, and the bleachers they broke because you stand on them during the games, right? And so we took this little piece of, it might not have been that little, but we took a piece of the bleachers out of the stadium with us because we were like, we broke it. We get to keep it. And a police officer singled us out and detained us and then did not arrest us, but charged us with like misdemeanor theft, basically. And the ruling or whatever was, similar to when you get a speeding ticket, you can go to like defensive driving or whatever. We had to go to like some kind of like compulsive stealing education class. So we were there with like a bunch of repeat shoplifters and also women whose husbands had left them but they bounced checks, stuff like that. So like really sad stories or really like weird creepy stories. And one of the repeat shoplifters had a very strange braggadocio about how he was escorted out of the Walmart by force by several officers who had to drag him out of there, and was very confident and even cocky about how he heard the officers say that they believed he was on meth because of his strength, and he was not on meth. He was just that passionate about stealing from the Walmart. And
I feel like it was meth.
And that's how I know that your pathological state can affect your strength.
And that's where the expression "strong as a meth head" comes from.
I guess so. This is an absolutely true story, though. It was just like mind-boggling to like see it happen in real life.
That is mind-boggling.
So Colin, did you learn anything from this movie?
That guy was kind of nice too. Like other than like that story putting up a bunch of red flags.
Matt, why don't we just skip to what you learned? I've got like 5 more though. I learned so much from this movie. This
All
is
right,
very
let's
educational.
just
I
go
learned
back
just
and
the
forth.
one thing.
I learned that if you want to set the tone and really make a movie scare the shit out of people, just slam the blood red title onto the screen, accompanied by a Muslim prayer. Yep, terrorism. Great.
I learned that demons hate regular water just as much as holy water, apparently, I guess.
You just got to tell them it's holy. They'll believe you.
Yeah, they're very credulous. Demons are very credulous.
Is anybody else like hoping, we're going forward with these movies, does anybody else hoping that The Exorcist increasingly becomes more like a blue collar job kind of attitude to it? Like
We
a
see his
plumber?
point of view, we see their point of view, like from the big, clocking
like his
in.
whole attitude and vibe is like very much like a plumber. He like comes in, he's like, yeah, you're real backed up with demons there. I could get you could get an estimate from another guy, but
Yeah, this is going into overtime.
yeah. Is anyone else hoping for that kind of exorcist going forward? That's what I learned.
My boss is breaking my balls about filling out my timesheet wrong. I don't know how many times I got to tell him.
His boss is God.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to need the double rosary with that. That's extra. I don't got that in the truck. I got to go all the way back to the shop.
What do I look like? Some kind of freaking fancy exorcist over here?
Somehow his butt crack is exposed even though he's wearing
The robes.
Even though he's standing up too.
Yeah, he's standing up with a robe on and it's just butt crack. He's facing frontwards and we can still see his butt crack. I'm union. This is a rule.
He carries like a rusty toolbox everywhere he goes. For some reason.
I got my holy water here.
I think there's a way to write that character in this movie and combine it with the baseball player who has the nickname The Exorcist. There's a way to marry those ideas.
I used to play ball.
Yeah.
Now I'm here doing this shit.
Yeah,
No, it has to be two different characters.
Oh, okay.
And when they finally have their buddy moment, it's when they look over each other and they're both saying the power of Christ compels you at full volume.
Oh, no. My holy water's Mr. Pibb.
I'm laughing so hard. I'm sorry.
I don't drink none of that fancy Dr. Pepper. I'm fine with Mr. Pibb over here.
Yeah, I didn't get no doctor's degree either.
Harris, what else did you learn?
Anybody learn anything
call me
else?
The next time I want people out of my house, I'm just going to stare them in the eyes and just piss on the floor.
Like that's the best way
It's
to
a
clear a
surefire
party.
way.
Like,
Yeah.
it's awkward.
It
it's
is a
like,
party
wow,
killer.
It's getting late, and you just gotta
Unless
lock
it's a
eyes with
Donald
someone.
Trump party, then he might
Just
stay.
be like, you're going to
Yeah, no
die up
shit.
there and just piss everywhere. Yeah.
I like that Trump joke. Matt.
Masturbating with a crucifix, bad idea. Even if you're not religious, it's just a bad idea. It's not an effective masturbation tool.
No.
I learned that if this movie was modern day, Reagan's mom wouldn't have had to see 88 doctors to find out Reagan is possessed. Today, she just could have gone on WebMD, and she could have gotten that outcome in 2 seconds.
She
You type
could have
in-
just gone on Facebook and find that. There'd be like a group about it.
And do not
Yeah,
get
I
her
saw
the
him.
vaccine.
Yeah.
You type in pussy stabbing, and demonic possession is literally the first thing that comes up, followed immediately by gonorrhea.
Yeah, I saw it on WebMD that my daughter is possessed. Yeah, we can take care of it for you.
Why is that far back?
WebMD recommends Catholic exorcism or Vagisil.
I gotta get the holy plunger. It's a plunger blessed by the Pope himself.
So
The
stupid.
papal plunge.
The papal plunge.
I also learned that
I feel like I derailed the discussion a little bit with this.
I've learned that holy water and prayer will only get you so far, and if you really want to kick the devil's ass, nothing beats a good old-fashioned knuckle sandwich, because that is actually how this movie gets resolved. He just punches the devil to
It's
death.
the American way.
Yeah.
I learned that even though Reagan was possessed, she still killed that director guy. It happened pretty early on in the film. Are we chalking this up to demon possession? This is sketchy at best.
Well, there's no witnesses.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So who knows?
I mean, the detective investigating the case pretty much knows that happened and just sort of showed up and was
Was just like-
oh,
just
demonic
shrugged.
possession? Gotcha. Yeah. No, it's cool.
Basically-
But more importantly, does
I'm going
someone
to the
want to see a
movies.
movie with me? Yeah.
Yeah.
case-
Does anybody want to see a movie? I also didn't get a single one of those jokes. One thing that I didn't learn is what the hell he's talking about whenever they say what's playing and he names a movie and 2 actors that don't star in the movie that are like comedians, and I didn't get any of those exchanges.
They weren't written for you.
Very weird.
Yeah, and they say they each look like actors. I don't know who the actors are that they say, but the
Paul Newman?
detective looks a lot like Gene Hackman, and I just wanted
He
Karis
does.
to be like, "You look like Gene Hackman, you son of a bitch."
I think the Paul Newman was a joke about,
right, that
Paul
he's
Newman's
not
very
he's not
handsome.
good looking. Yeah.
yeah.
The William Friedkin said when he met what's his name, Jason Miller, that he looked like John Garfield, he was in a bunch of he was in like The Postman Always Rings Twice. Body and Soul was his big hit, which was the boxing movie that they mentioned. And then later he says he looks like Sal Mineo, who was the young Hispanic guy in Rebel Without a Cause.
I thought it was pronounced Mineo.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
I thought James Dean was the only person in Rebel Without a Cause.
Just
No,
him.
Natalie Wood was in that.
It's a one-man show.
Just
I
him.
thought it was a one-man show.
There was James Caan was in that, very young James.
I thought he
Caan.
played the rebel and the cause.
No, there's no cause. Nobody plays the cause.
Oh, yeah, it's without
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that all we learned from this movie? Are we ready to rate this sucker?
I've learned that
Oh, go
the
ahead.
devil. I'm surprised no one's made a joke about the devil actually being in DC in this movie, and that the devil just never left. That's a political joke for everyone out there.
Oh, I got it. I
Yeah.
thought you were gonna do a little wordplay with devil in the details, but I didn't.
Oof. No, I'm sorry. I went somewhere else. I'll work on it and come back
We'll
to you.
save
though.
that for another
Yep.
another episode. Yeah.
What I'm saying is someone
like that
throw
the-
holy water
I
on
feel
Mitch
like
McConnell.
You guys didn't hear. I feel like you guys didn't hear Matt's Trump pee-pee joke.
Oh, you
That
know what'll
was
be really funny
pretty
is
good.
if you bring it up again. We can always just, we can edit this episode so that PP joke is actually heard.
No.
But you know what we can't do? We can't edit this section so that it's funny or even relevant.
But you two acted like you didn't hear it, and
I
heard
think
it.
I might have missed it. It was a pee joke.
You said
Matt,
the
why don't
best way to-
you tell it again? And then
Yes,
and then
tell
after
it
you're
again.
done,
It'll be
no,
funnier.
tell it again and then explain to us why it's funny.
Wait, let's do
Nothing's
this.
funnier than explaining your jokes.
to make it
this is comedy.
to
Here,
make
we're
it
gonna
somewhat
make comedy now.
entertaining. Colin, you play the role of Jenna, and Harris, you play the role of me. Go. Like reenact what was said.
I don't
Think
remember
about your
what
choices,
specifically was
Colin.
said.
Well,
Think
Colin-
about your
Colin
choices
speaks
impersonating
first.
me.
He'll prompt
Okay.
you.
I learned that if you want to end a dinner party early, you just go in and take a pee on the floor.
Unless that's a dinner party that Donald Trump is at
But no.
or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh,
Nice. Good,
Yeah,
good.
I get it.
Nice.
Good job, guys.
Good job. I felt
right.
like I was better than Harris in the read.
I think you were better than me in the read.
I feel like this was just a horrific way to segue to our Timothy Dolphins.
I give it 8 out of 10. Timothy Dolphins.
Do you want to give it a little explanation of why?
Yeah,
Jason
we usually
Miller.
give a
You can
little
say
like
stuff.
you can like validate why you said that, or you could just leave it at that.
The hot priest.
Yeah.
I
Great.
think,
Solid.
yeah, I don't have anything else to add to that. I mean, I feel like I've talked about why, but it's just a movie that is I don't think the experience of it, the first time you see it, the dread it builds, and the pacing and the sound design and the choices, I just don't think something can be replicated in a future reboot. Also 8 out of 10 for not using jump scares as cheap scares. I like horror movies that have more, not subtle scares, but just things that are not just for cheap jump scares.
Totally.
Did I mention the hot priest?
I'm not sure. Are
Okay.
you talking about the one that has his collar like hanging loose for some of it?
Are you talking about the musical theater priest or the very old priest?
Yeah, I mean, saw this movie as a young kid, and it just stuck with me. And I think a movie like that, it has to be at least 8 out of 10.
You should see Rudy and see if it's still like working for you.
You know what? I haven't seen Rudy in a long time, but I might go back and see what that's about. Does he have a collar that's loosened?
No, but he's got a whistle, I'm pretty sure.
Ooh, okay, that does it for me.
Similar.
He's a tough disciplinarian in that one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, isn't he they give him like a crow's nest position to overlook the football practice from afar. Mm-hmm. You know, he's up on a high thing. He's literally put on a pedestal. That could do something for you, maybe.
I'm very into it. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. You know, there's real gold in the paint they use on the helmets at Notre Dame.
Harris, please rate this thing.
Is there?
Okay. Yeah, I think there's an amount of it that it's like a little bit dated and doesn't age quite as well. Some of the atmospheric creepiness has sort of been outdone by like subsequent films that I'm sure were influenced by this one. But I really do appreciate the filmmaking. It's really well made, well acted. Some of the scares don't really hold up, but a lot of the visceral stuff is really still like gross and effective, and the performances are great. And obviously, it's so influential on so many other things. It's kind of a must-watch. So I gave it 7 Timothy Dolphins.
Great.
Who's next, me or?
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah, you know, a funny thought I had was, like, speaking of football, was that, you know, I see a lot of, growing up in Texas and, like, being in athletics and stuff, I feel like the movie wasn't as scary to me, because the idea is that, like, if God's doing anything with your body, it's like winning sports games, because that's what we learn from pro sports.
Are you talking about Rudy?
I know. So you just bring up Rudy again?
He's already lost me.
No, but like after every sports game, it's always like, yeah, we just won because of God or whatever. It's like, okay, that's a stark contrast to needing God to kick the demon out of a body. But that's one reason why you wouldn't be afraid of possession if you're told that you know, Jesus is scoring touchdowns right there with you. I kind of got sidetracked. I'm sorry. It was just like a funny thought I had during the movie. I think this movie is great, and yeah, sorry I got sidetracked with the beginning of my evaluation there. Hope you guys can bear with me.
I'm with you. I'm with you on this journey.
It's great. I mean, you could give it a second try. I could edit that out.
Let's try to get your Timothy Dolphin rating section in under like 10 minutes, Colin.
it's hard because I like
Because you
so
don't have a
much more
single
in-
coherent thought in your giant head.
It's not only that. It's it's how enjoyable it is that Harris has such a hard time while I'm doing it. No, this movie's awesome. Like, it's really, really well made. I thought the director's cut was way better. Don't listen to the critics of the director's cut.
I agree.
I liked that it was longer and like Matt always says, it's good to get a slow burn sometimes. And it's really cool how this movie like sets itself up and then is also like a bunch of the stuff that people talk about being in this movie is in the last 30 minutes of this movie, and yet you still want to watch the whole movie. It's still way better to watch the whole movie, and I think that says something. And yeah, I'm not going to take too much time.
Too late.
It's hard for me because I don't know. Horror movies are not my thing, although I do like them. But I usually don't, think of them as rated higher just in my mind. But I'm just trying to rate this how I would. And I think we do know that I always give high scores. So I'm thinking about giving it 8 Timothy Dolphins, if not 7, probably 8. I'd say 8. I think we're going to have some stinkers later. This is probably an 8.
Yeah, I think you guys should enjoy this one before you get to the sequels.
Cool. Yeah, I love this movie. I think, we're talking about one of the classics here. This is like considered, by many to be the greatest movie ever made by some. Someone said that. Someone important said that. It's up there.
I believe it was a jazz group.
It's up there for me. I think this movie is like really well made in every facet. I saw some things this time that I haven't noticed before even, and I've seen this movie a bunch of times. It's gripping, and it's like from moment one, we don't even know what the fuck is going on in the Iraqi desert. It's like totally unexplained, but you're just in it. It's just so. There's something about it that's just so watchable and great, and there's nothing cheesy. I think it holds up still to this day. I think really for me, the only thing that felt different is that like the cursing, because we're adults and we hear cursing on TV and HBO and shit constantly, and I feel like the stuff coming out of her mouth was more shocking back then than it is now. That's like the only knock that I have on this movie.
The soup remains shocking.
The soup is shocking. Yeah,
coming out of her mouth.
Yeah, it is. It looks, pretty fake, but but it is shocking. Like Colin said, all the stuff that we know about this movie, like the famous stuff, happens in the last 30 minutes. But it's like a perfect build leading up to that, and they don't reveal too much. And like the little bits that we do get revealed to us are great, and it literally is a step-by-step build. And like I said, it's maybe like, one scene away from like her seeing another doctor from it like not being a proper build, and it would be a little too much. But I think it at least the theatrical cut they do it well. I can't speak to the director's cut, but I do feel that the place where the spider walk should be, or it would be in the director's cut, I think that would come way too early. That would be the first thing that we see her do that's like really shocking and otherworldly, and it just wouldn't make sense there. So I stand with Friedkin for cutting that scene out. But I think this is a classic movie, and it does everything right, and it still stands today. And so for that, I'm actually gonna give this the coveted 10. This is a fucking 10 for me.
Wow.
Timothy Dolphins, baby.
That is an overrating. You know what I think is interesting? It's around, I think a companion piece to this, because I thought of it a few times when I was watching it, but I imagine you guys have probably seen Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
But a similar movie that came out, a few years before this, but also has that kind of slow burn quality, where the most important, memorable stuff sort of happens at the very end of the movie. But I don't think it has aged as well, and for me isn't as effective. But I thought of it several times with, like there's that moment where the director's killed himself at her apartment, and we see her drive by the accident scene, and all the ambulances and police cars and everything are there, but we don't even find out that happened yet. We see her go into her house and find the window open, and she freaks out, and she's like, why did somebody leave Reagan alone? And then somebody says, oh, we left the director here, and then the other guy comes in and says, oh, the director's dead. It's like it plants the whole crime scene at the bottom when she's coming home, but the logical thing to do would be to have her stop there and find out that information then. But this movie's all about like withholding and withholding and withholding and building the suspense till the right moment. So we just see an accident scene and some blood and some cops and some people, and then we find out later what it is. And I kind of feel like, because there's a scene where a woman in Rosemary's Baby jumps off the roof and kills herself, and she's walking home from the grocery store or whatever, and is like, what happened? Oh, that lady killed herself. She's like, oh no, that lady killed, and it's like sort of a different way to play that, which isn't necessarily worse, but I feel like this is sort of a more sophisticated,
it's more real, because it's like if you were going through what she's going through, and you drive past, ambulances and people, like, maybe you would turn your head and look, but you're not going to stop your car and get out and like see what's going on. You're too overwhelmed with what's going on in your own personal life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also, how did that detective guy come back way later with no crime scene tape around the place and find an obvious piece of evidence, a clay statue
same
as
question.
big as his hand, just laying on the ground?
How did they miss that?
Who did the scene? Who was there?
I think originally they ruled it as an accident, and then when they realized that his head had been turned entirely around, they were like, we should get a detective to investigate. And then he came back and he was like, this may be a crime scene. This is me defending the movie, even though you're probably right. It's probably a good point.
Sounds like bad police work to me.
Shoddy.
Well, nobody ever said he was a good cop. He didn't solve the crime, I would like to point out. So
Again, he shrugged. His case file ends with a shrug. Like, well.
Yeah, he solved the case of getting a date to the movies.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what his captain was concerned about?
Yeah, he's like,
What's
but
his
who are you
name?
going to watch
What's
the
his
movie? Yeah, Kinderman.
Yeah.
Who are you going to watch the movie with?
I don't know. I got no one yet.
Kinderman, get in here. Kinderman, my office. Did you get a date to the movie?
I got a couple of priest options. There's a hot one, and there's a musical theater type one, and I'm not sure who I'm going to go with. Well, that sounds like a tough case, Kinderman. I hope you solve that sucker.
You've been on the beat a long time, Kinderman. I haven't seen you go to the movies with a man.
Kinderman, it's going to be your badge and gun if you don't find a good date to the movies.
Chief, you're busting my balls.
Yeah, what are you breaking my onions for, Chief?
Does a drive-in movie theater count? I got nothing, Sarge. A snuff film, a porno. Give me a break.
There was a guy sitting 3 seats away. Does that count?
Did you hold hands? If you didn't hold hands, it doesn't count.
That's how we do police here.
That's policing.
In my town.
God, DC Police Department has its priorities all out of whack.
It's no wonder that it had so much crime in the 80s.
No shit.
They really had to revamp the police department to be like, hey, wait, you guys are solving your dates? You guys are supposed to be solving the murders.
How else are we supposed to find someone to go see a movie with?
I don't got time to solve these murders. I'm trying to figure out who's going to take me out to see the new picture.
Well, with that, I want to say thank you to Jenna Quigley for joining us for this.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I hope you had fun. Do you have
I had
any
a great time.
Do you have any parting words, or rather, do you have anything to promote, or like, do you want to give us your Twitter handle, or give the listeners your Twitter stuff, or Instagram?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in cat stuff, go to my Instagram. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at jbomb11. And the only thing I have to plug is, for the love of God, register to vote. Figure out if and how you can vote early in your state, and if you can vote by mail, and get it done.
That's great.
Early and often.
Yep.
Well, great. Well, thank you for being a part of the show. I hope you had fun. And yeah, next time we'll be covering Exorcist 2, The Heretic, a movie I've never seen. Have any of you guys seen this?
No.
No.
Is it about a relief pitcher?
Maybe. Hey, it's me. I'm back. The Exorcist.
Fucking plumber again.
Yeah, you could get somebody in here to get you an estimate, but I think you should take care of it right away.
You thought I was gone for good, but I was just on strike. Joke's on you.
I feel like if I leave the Zoom call, you guys will still be doing this for 2 hours more.
You are right about that.
You're right about that.
All right. Let's quote this movie, and that'll be our sign off. Someone say a quote from this movie.
Power of Christ compels you. The power of
Jesus Christ! It is he who commands.